This Fall River City Council public hearing will now be called to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilors Kadim? Dion?
Here.
Kilby? Here. Lullaby LeBeau?
Here.
Lee?
Here.
Peckham? Pelletier?
Here.
Pereira?
Here.
And President Ponti.
Here. I don't know if the speakers are working. Councilor Lee, could you jump in the back to see if, can you go in the back room to see if they can get our microphones on? No problem. There we go. All right, looks like we're in business.
I'm here.
Alex, were we live on TV or do we need to restart this meeting? We were? Okay, very good. All right, this Fall River City Council meeting has now been called to order. A roll call has taken place pursuant to the open meeting law. A person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. First item on our agenda this evening is our public hearings for curb removals. First item on our agenda is Elias Sajida Bijam of 245 Hancock Street for the removal of curbing. Motion to open made by Councilor Pelletier, seconded by Councilor Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. 248 Hancock Street. The petitioner has an existing 23-foot driveway opening on the east side of the property and is requesting the removal of 23 feet of curbing on the west side of the property to create a horseshoe driveway to allow for additional parking and easier access. Is there any proponents wishing to speak on this item? Calling all proponents. And any opponents wishing to speak on this item? Calling all opponents. Madam Clerk, anything written?
No, Mr. President.
Hearing none, is there a
Mr.
motion?
President.
Council in seat 7, Council Pelletier.
You know, this is a second request for horseshoe driveway. And I think we should look at it first to see what's going on. And I know there's no opposition, but again, when you're taking 46 feet out, you like to see what the neighborhood looks like. I haven't seen it. So, you know, maybe we can send it to committee at the right time.
Motion to refer?
Not necessary, we're in public hearings, we'll do that in full council. Any other,
Thank you.
hearing no proponents and opponents, motion to close made by Councilor Pelletier, seconded by Councilor Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 2, Louis and Sonia Souza of 277 Walter Street for the removal of curbing as follows. Motion to open.
Motion.
Made by Councilor
Second.
Kilby, seconded by Councilor Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Louis and Sonia Souza of 277 Walter Street for the removal of curbing as follows. The petitioner is requesting the removal of 14 feet of curbing to widen the existing 16-foot driveway opening in the front of the home to allow for additional parking. Calling all proponents wishing to speak on this item, calling all proponents. Hearing none. Any opponents wishing to speak, calling all opponents. Hearing none. Motion to close made by Councilor Lee, seconded by Councilor Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 3, Massachusetts Electric Company and Verizon New England for one jointly owned pole location. Motion to open, made by Councilor Lee, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Massachusetts Electric Company and Verizon New England for one jointly owned pole location as follows. To install a new 45-foot pole between poles 10 and 11 on Globe Mills Avenue to be numbered 10 through 50. The pole will be approximately 95 feet west of the pole 10 and approximately 55 feet east of pole 11. The pole is being installed in order to be used as a primary feed for a new Vista Way 4-lot subdivision in accordance with Plan Number 304-09106, dated July 22nd, 2021. Is there any proponents wishing to speak on this item? Calling all proponents. Any opponents wishing to speak on this item? Calling all opponents. Hearing none, motion to close. Made
Motion to
by
close.
Councilor Dion, seconded by Councilor Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 4, Massachusetts Electric Company and Verizon New England for one joint pole location. Motion to open. Made by
Motion.
Councilor Pelletier, seconded by Councilor Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Massachusetts Electric Company and Verizon New England for one joint pole relocation as follows. It's on Downing Street. National Grid requests the installation of a new 35-foot JO stub pole on an anchor and a guy in the public way a few feet east of 136 Downing Street and approximately 29 feet north of pole 5. The customer requested that the existing pole and guy wire in the yard be removed to make for a future expansion in accordance with Plan Number 304-04241 dated June 23rd, 2021. Is there any proponents wishing to speak on this item? Calling all proponents. Calling all opponents wishing to speak on this item. Calling all opponents. Hearing none, motion to close made by
Second.
Councilor Dion, seconded by Councilor Kilby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. That will conclude our public hearings. Motion to adjourn our public hearings made by
Motion to adjourn.
Councilor Dion,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Fall River City Council Committee on Finance will now be called to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilors Kadim?
Here.
Dion?
Here.
Kilby?
Here.
Balabi LeBeau? Lee?
Here.
Peckham? Pelletier?
Here.
Pereira?
Here.
President Ponti.
Here, I just want to let everybody know that Councilor Peckham is dealing with a personal matter at this point today, and he most likely will not be joining us this evening. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. First item on our agenda this evening is citizens' input. Madam Clerk, any written?
No, Mr. President.
No citizens' input. We'll go to the discussion of the FY20. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to
Citation.
acknowledge Councilor Pereira for a citation.
And on this side. Rick Aguiar has been with us for 50 years. He looks great, doesn't he? From 1971 to 1998, he was an auxiliary firefighter. And in 1999, he helped to stop the special services. He was a deputy EMA from 95 to 2004, when he was appointed as the Director of Emergency Management. When he first started, Chief Dawson was there and got Rick right into his idea of having this whole program in special services. For those of you that don't know, whenever there's a crisis, you'll see all these people there. Whether it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock in the morning, they're there. If there's a fire, a flood, a disaster, a hurricane, if it's too hot out and we need a warming shelter, a cooling center, if it's too cold and we need a warming center, these are the people that come to help. But more impressively, since he's been Director of the Emergency Management, Rick has managed to get grants totaling the City of Fall River $375,000 he's got. And I'm going to let him say a few words because he really doesn't like limelight, so this is a lot for him to be here. But Rick, on behalf of the City of Fall River and my colleagues, we give you an official resolution. Be it resolved that the City Council hereby extends its commendations to Richard Aguiar in recognition of your 50th year of dedicated service and volunteerism with the City of Fall River Emergency Management Agency. Be it further resolved that the Fall River City Council extends best wishes and continued success, and that this resolution be entered into the records of the City Council. And thank you. Gives me great pleasure, because I've known you all these 50 years of doing all these wonderful things, and I know how hard you work.
Thank you, thank you. So, when one thinks of 50 years, you say, wow, 50 years. Well, I was 17 when I started all of this. And I was a young guy. Of course, I had hair. I had no belly back then. But 50 years goes by fast because I did landscaping for 40 years. With my father, we had a landscaping business. So when you look at 40 years and 50 years, and you look back and say, where did the time go to? It just flew by. And I think those of us who've been in business for many years understand that time just goes by and you always try to accomplish more. I have a few of my members here. I have 18 volunteer members. A lot of them could not come tonight because of work. They had to work, but they would love to be here. And I know they're here, wherever they are, they're here in their hearts, and I appreciate that. It hasn't been a challenge for me because I love what I do. And I think many people, I think if it was a job, and we all know this, if it was a job to get up every morning to do this job, I wouldn't be here. I'm going to tell you just a short story about how I got to this point. I took the test for the fire department way back in 72, 73. I was going to get on the job as a full-time firefighter. I told my father I was going to go as a full-time firefighter. It broke his heart. So I said, why, Dad? He said, all this business is for you, and I'm working on this. We work together on this business. So I said, you know, this is not even worth breaking his heart. So that's when I really got involved with the fire auxiliary, got involved with emergency management. Back in the day when I started, it was civil defense. And it's like Linda said, Chief Dawson approached me to start the civil service group, which I did. And we are today because of not only me, and I always say this, you know, and those of you who are veterans are going to relate to this. You're only as good as your officers. You need a general to lead you, captains, colonels, whatever it may be. And without me and my officers, my men behind me, I am nothing. So they also make who I am. And I thank them for that as well. So with that being said, as long as God gives me good health, I certainly don't want to put my hat down. I got my special hat on today. I don't want to put my hat down or hang up my coat. I'm going to do it as long as I can, as long as I have health, and as long as the fire chief wants me around, and the mayors, whoever that may be. I'll continue to work hard for the city. And I thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you very much.
Your people here?
Take a picture. I'll take a picture.
Remind me before full council.
Kenny will take a picture.
Remind me before full council. Who's talking?
Oh, go ahead.
Thanks, guys. Next item on our agenda is a discussion for the FY 2021 Quarter 4 Budget Report. Mr. Sahadi, Mr. McCoy.
Yeah, I did.
Mrs. Sahadi, introduction briefly.
Certainly. Thank you, Council President, and good evening, everyone, this evening. You have in front of you your fourth quarter report, and certainly for full disclosure, as we indicated in the prior years, the fourth quarter is not quite closed yet in the sense of closing the city's fiscal books for June 30, 2021. The city has, based on the Division of Local Services, the ability to book receivables and potentially even payables through September 30th. So what you have in front of you is the closing of June 30 records as of August 8th, when these reports were run. As far as the disclosure and the presentation is concerned, it's in the same format that you have seen in prior years. The one request of this council was to indicate any potential deficits that the city may have in a tab going forward, but as you know, this is the fourth quarter. Those deficits were already disclosed to the council, and we will be providing that information to you in future quarterly reports. The budgeted revenue for the city was $312 million, and the actual revenue was $309 million. If you remember, in the prior year, we budgeted $2 million from stabilization, and as we've indicated earlier this fiscal year, and certainly through the budget process, that $2 million was not needed, so we did not transfer that out of the stabilization fund. The local receipts were budgeted at $22,791 million, and the actual receipts were at $23,723 million. We had certainly some of the local receipt categories that were under budget and others that were over budget. For an example, motor vehicle excise tax came in at $8.6 million, and the budget was $8.1 million. This being a very unprecedented year with a number of uncertainties, we certainly can't look at that $8.6 million as something that we may actually collect in the next fiscal year. But as you recall, last June 30th, June 30, 2020, we were certainly still closed in the sense of a lot of industries within the Commonwealth and the United States were still closed. And as a result, there were, the warrant, the motor vehicle warrant was late at going out. And because it was late at going out, the cash receipts were in '21. And to no problem of ours. I mean, we don't control when the warrants go out. The registry does. But the warrant was late going out, and so as a result, the receipts were in '21 and not in '20. So I just want to kind of bring that to your attention, because when you're looking at the '22 budget, we're not budgeting something in the range of $8.6 million. We are going back to what we believe the motor vehicle receipts should be on an annual basis. And that is true, too, for some of the other receipts that you see here in the category of local receipts. Tax liens this past year collected were $1.595 million. And the state aid, of course, comes through on your cherry sheet. So I don't know if anyone has any questions with regard to the revenues.
I don't.
Councilor in seat 7, Councilor Pelletier.
Just one question. The marijuana, what does that represent, 1.8 million? How many places are running?
Well, again, we're talking about fiscal '21, and so during fiscal '21, we had, in terms of the excise, 2 locations that had recreational, because the excise marijuana portion of the collections relates only to the 3% excise tax.
All right. Do you know how many places that will be open at a certain time coming next year?
I do not. Right now, we have 3 open and operational. So we have what was called Sunnyside. I believe it's Cresco Labs now. You've got Northeast Alternatives, which was the first to open. And now we have Nature's Medicine open. All 3 are allowed to sell recreational marijuana.
The mayor has signed 14 letters of non-opposition. That doesn't mean we're going to have 14, does it?
No, it does not.
Do you know how many?
I do not. I do not.
Those, but what I liked was 5 or 7 at most. But he just kept signing them things like there's no tomorrow. But I certainly don't want to see more than 5 or 7.
I remember the conversations.
Right, and then, you see all around, they got them Fairhaven, they got them Taunton, they got them all over the place. Why come to Fall River, really, to spend their money? They spend it their own place. So I just want to keep up to make sure we don't have more marijuana than we have Dunkin' Donuts. I'm sure we won't see that, but imagine that. With that, I yield, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further on revenue? Revenue questions only? Counselor in seats 5, Counselor Lee.
Just wanted to understand, we budgeted for 70,000 for solid waste and other charges. We returned over 165,000, bringing us over 100% to 236%. So that number stands out, and I just wanted to understand the dynamics behind that, because we didn't have any fees or anything we didn't have the big fees and the big bags and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. It's just an area that is really an unknown on an annual basis. Mr. Perry tries to be very, very conservative when he's budgeting the revenue for solid waste, other charges. If we look back in the prior fiscal year, we actually collected 120,000, but he's left his budgeted revenue at 70,000, with the unknown as to what type of solid waste he would be taking in. But you're correct, the fees have not changed.
So what were the dynamics behind it being such a large number of revenue return?
Well, we don't have Mr. Perry with us this evening, but I think some of it may just be, again, the unprecedented year, the COVID year. People are home, they're cleaning out their homes, they're buying more of the tickets, if you will, in order to dispose of the 3 items, the bulky items. Plus, anyone that's, going to the Lewiston Street property to dispose of solid waste.
Okay. And the problems that we had during COVID of collecting, we had to use, I believe, Bay Coast Bank or some other services to collect that. Those problems have subsided, correct?
Yes, actually, the arrangement that we have with Bay Coast Bank is working quite well. We still have a number of our taxpayers that are utilizing the bank for the payment of their taxes. We have the turnover on a daily basis, so that is working well. We don't have the lines downstairs, so we're not concerned with, the close contact of taxpayers standing in line and being too close, not being 6 feet apart, even though we do have the signs on the floor, but you know what that's like.
That's made the online and mobile
The
options
online
more
has
smoother
gotten
too, right?
much smoother, as well as people drop their checks when they come in the drop box, as opposed to coming in and standing in line, so it's worked out well.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Dion.
Good evening. On page 6, littering fines, original appropriation $500. We're at 5,076%, 24,880. Can you, that jump is from what? Is that an accurate number?
Well, I would say certainly, Counselor, that it's an accurate number. I mean, our books and records have not been audited as of yet. I'm assuming you're talking about the detail? I'm trying to figure out where you're looking.
Page 6, general fund, police department revenue, I guess, is where it's under, but it's on page 6 in your
Sure,
fourth quarter budget,
I
littering
do-
fines.
I do see it. I'm not familiar with that specific revenue and that specific line, but I can get you the detail of the actual of the 25,380.
Because I guess we originally anticipate $500 in fines and in revenues, and we're at almost 25,000.
That's correct.
Okay. Water and sewer. Can you explain the formula? Every department, or just about every department, seems to contribute towards the water and sewer CSO charge. How is it determined which department pays how much? And are the runoff fees applied to each department as well? Can you explain the water and sewer CSO charges?
Certainly, but Mr. Furlan is here this evening, so he could probably describe it better. But the departments that generally pay the stormwater fee are those departments that have the property that would warrant a stormwater fee expense, so.
The
we're talk-
impervious,
That's correct. So we're talking about the park department, in particular, that's the one that comes to mind, certainly the school department, those types of departments, facilities, anyone that has property that would generate a fee, would generate the fee for stormwater.
yeah, because the Parks Department, let's see, the proposed budget was $245,200. They exceeded it by $4,550, so they actually expended $228,550. So when we talk about impervious surfaces, obviously, the parks are grass for the most part. So I'm just trying to understand how that, how, you know, their portion of that charge, how that's,
Yes, so I don't know how their expense line items are broken down or paid out. I can tell you that all parks and all municipal buildings and facilities get charged the same way that any other commercial or residential property does within the city. So any municipal building or park that uses water has a water meter. So it's based off of usage of water within those facilities. And then the impervious area, again, is calculated based on the square footage of impervious area within that facility. So you take a building like City Hall, majority of City Hall is impervious area. That's broken down to every 2,800 square feet is charged $46 per quarter.
would you say it's fair to say that the school department has more impervious surfaces than the park department? Or would that be an inaccurate statement?
I'm not sure, that would have to be calculated out. Again, I wouldn't know what the percentage of impervious is on either parks. There are a lot of parks around the city. As you said, they are majority grassed areas inside the parks. They do have, you do have parks like Kennedy Park, which has a large wading pool, multiple walkways throughout the park area, parking lots, tennis courts, basketball courts throughout the area. So to say that either school department or parks department has more or less, I couldn't give you that answer.
I know that earlier it was discussed that perhaps there was more water usage this year because of COVID, because people were home more, et cetera. I noticed that most departments, the expended monies were reduced. Streets and highways was reduced by $1,500. Fire department, a little under $7,000. Police department, about $6,500. The only two that went up were the sewer fund, which actually increased by almost $56,000 more than originally appropriated, and the parks, which increased by $4,550. The school department was reduced by $91,000. Their anticipated amount for that is $330,000 generally. So is there a way we could compare the square footage of this, because how many schools do we have in the city?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
16, 17 sites.
And I would say Durfee is the size at least of a park, if not larger than most. So I'm a little confused by the fact that the parks paid more than the school side. And water and sewer charge is not a net school eligible expense, correct?
It is.
Oh, it is net school
Yes.
eligible?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you can, I can just touch a little bit on the school department. Again, I wouldn't want to compare schools to parks. I don't have the information in regards to their impervious area here with me tonight. Schools, we did do a reevaluation within the past 4 months, we've been doing that of all impervious areas around the school departments. They were being underbilled for impervious area. That has been corrected, and they are being billed correctly moving forward.
Because you would assume their obvious water usage would be higher than a park, but the impervious surface may not be.
Right, so the water usage for any building, whether it be a park or whether it be any school building, has a water meter. So that's based on actual usage that goes through the meter. And again, that was something that was brought up at prior council meetings. We did a full evaluation of the impervious of schools, and we corrected that imbalance.
Okay. I just thought it was interesting that only the parks and the sewer, actually, their dollar amount went up and everybody else's went down. And then one other question I had, I was looking through here and I wasn't finding it. And this is just by recollection, that we had a conversation in regards to a $100,000 item in your budget that you budget for vehicles. Is that correct? Included in your budget, when you submit a budget,
Yep.
in your budget is, as opposed to coming to bond for vehicles, you try to include that in your budget so that if you have a necessary expense, it's already there.
Within the capital line item of our yearly budget, if we do need vehicles, we try to include them within, if we can, yes.
And am I correct in remembering that that's 100,000 in the capital item?
Within the FY '22 budget, within water, we had 120-something budgeted for a new water maintenance facility, a new water maintenance truck. Yeah, so within the FY '22 water budget, capital improvements total was $200,000, 110 of that was for a maintenance service vehicle. And then within the sewer department, within capital line items, we did not have any vehicles within the sewer, but we did have replacement of a bed for one, capital improvement of a replacement of a bed for one of our Stecco trucks.
Okay. So that's basically, so on a year, that's built into your budget every year, correct? That's
Yeah.
built into your budget every year?
Yes, so if you look at the year-to-date budget reports for sewer and water, sewer in '21 had an $80,000 budget, and water had a $150,000 budget.
So on a year that you don't replace a vehicle, what happens with those funds?
So every year, depending, if you go back and you do a history of our capital for past years in both water and sewer, it adjusts either up or down depending on what the needs are for that particular year.
Because I thought when I was looking through the budget, I saw a 2019 vehicle, and I thought that was the newest or most recent year of a vehicle. I think there was a 2019, a 2017, and other than that, all the vehicles were older. So that just led me to assume, and that's why I'm asking, that you don't necessarily expend that money every year, and if not, that's why my question was, what happens to that money? Is that something that if you don't use it in a year, it can offset rates?
Yeah, so again, when I'm building my budget for any fiscal year, if we know that if we're planning to replace a vehicle or add another vehicle into the fleet at that time, that goes in within that capital line item. And if we're not planning that capital line is reduced by whatever amount would be within there, so. Yes, if you look back historically, the capital line items within water and sewer do fluctuate depending on the needs of the department in any particular fiscal year.
So have they ever been reduced because of not using line items like that, or do you pretty much stay steady and then it's only when you need to increase?
No, they're reduced, I believe, if you, I don't know if it was this year or last year, capital line items were reduced, I believe. I can do a full analysis of past capital expenditures throughout the water and sewer department, so what was budgeted within those line items, if you like.
Okay, thank you. With that, I yield.
Council in seat 7, Councilor Pelletier.
Thank you. It's been brought to my attention, Mr. Fairland, some people up the Coopercott, they've got houses there, and they got no sewer, no water. Now, all of a sudden, you come in, and you're charging them for the rainwater. Is that built in your budget? Are you receiving that money? Is that something new?
So, yeah, so over the past years, we've been doing an evaluation of the stormwater ordinance and properties throughout the city within the stormwater that are eligible for stormwater. Just like we did with the school department, we went out to the properties and we did a full evaluation of the impervious area on their properties, and now we corrected the billing to make sure that that was correct. There were some properties up in the Copacabana area. Again, they do not have water, they do not have sewer, but they do have a benefit. There is stormwater drainage and stormwater structures up through that area that eventually flow down to the Copacabana Reservoir. And then we also have the Copacabana Reservoir Dam, as well as Lake Nokichoke Dam downstream from there, the Westport Dam, and so on. So we have structures out there that we need to maintain. As per the stormwater ordinance, any stormwater that flows from a property that where we have structures, drainage structures, streams, swales, stormwater or water control structures, being dams, we're eligible to be able to charge those properties for stormwater fee as long as they have impervious area or highly disturbed areas on their property from the natural ground. So that's how the ordinance states within there. So,
How many homes are involved?
so up in that area, it was a total of, I believe, 7 that were implemented. Those were implemented at the same time as we did all of the residents that border the South Watuppa Pond.
All right, well, here's the problem. They never get charged before. You come on board and, of course, you want to raise money, but it's the right thing to do. They don't have no water, no sewage. He tells me he's got maybe one catch basin almost in Dartmouth. So they're beefing about me, trying to help him out to see what the story is. I mean, are you right? Or was the other guy right saying that they shouldn't pay?
So
All
we
of a
had,
sudden, you come on board, here we go.
again, we've done an evaluation and we've taken areas throughout the city, and it's not just me. My predecessor, Mr. Sullivan, also did, back when he was here, I remember implementing stormwater fees into the Lake Avenue area, Judge and Greenleaf Street. That was when Mr. Sullivan was here. Again, we look at, can't go a whole entire city at one time because that would be a very large project, but we do like to occasionally evaluate the different stormwater areas throughout the city and make sure that everyone is being appropriately charged.
Well, here's the thing, I gotta have to do something, have a meeting with you and with them people. It says some are paying, some are not paying, some don't wanna pay because they never paid before. So I think it's upon you to sit down with these people before you start sending the bill so they know what's going on, instead of them calling me or any one of my colleagues, hey, what's going on here? That's all I want. If it's fair, okay. But I want to see what the fair part is. They're complaining, they're paying 45 or 46 per quarter. And a lot of people are involved in that, and that's what I like to see squared away. So I don't know if some of that money, have you collected already some of that money? How long the process been going on?
Yeah, so they've been billed for, I believe it was about a year and a half.
Year and a half, there
now.
you go.
They've been
So it's
billed.
brand new. And
Yeah.
did you have any involvement with that to let them know, hey, we're gonna have to charge you guys?
Yep, so typically what we do is we send out a letter to the residents prior, a couple of them within the Copacabana area. That did not happen. They went out to all of them within the South Watuppa Pond area. There was a couple in the Copacabana area that the letter was missed. We did
Okay,
speak
I don't
with-
wanna stay on this too long. All I gotta say is, we gotta sit down with them people and make it right or wrong, whatever you wanna do. But you gotta let them know what's going on.
Yep.
And if they're not supposed to be paying, okay. Everybody should pay their fair share. But you gotta show us and them what's going on.
Yep,
Because you ask me, I ask you. You tell them, and then we'll see what happens.
yeah.
Is
So,
someone not paying the bills?
There was some that were not paying the bills. We just had a couple that did appeal. They were in front of the sewer commission.
Yeah.
They came in front of the sewer commission. I made my case to the sewer commission with, along with all the graphics showing the flow of water from their property and how it goes into our stormwater structures. They were also there and made their appeal to the
All
sewer
right,
commission.
that's enough for tonight. I'm gonna try to set something up with you.
Yep,
The
definitely.
people in the
Give me a
area,
call.
we'll let them know, and let them know what's going on. That's all.
Without a doubt.
And what's fair is fair, and so be it. I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. In seat 5, Counselor Lee.
Just to follow up on the school department information, it was around the last school department meeting the school committee meeting that we had,
Yep.
joint meeting that we had. I afterwards asked you about whether or not we had an accurate, number of the square footage of collection of rainwater or stormwater. Was that what that reevaluation was a result of?
Yes, so, exactly. So I wanted to go through, since your question, I wanted to go through and see whether we were charging them the correct amount. I had our GIS go through all the school department properties. We blocked out all of the impervious areas, being walkways, parking lots, buildings, et cetera, and we came up with square footages based off of the GIS, off of the new aerials that we have for the city, so.
This impervious land you mentioned, is that what it's called?
Yeah, impervious area, correct.
Okay. What was the result of the correction?
The result was an increase of about $150,000 increase charged to the school department.
So does that offset a cost from the city side? Or it just increases a cost from the school side?
It increases, so, as Mr. Hardy said, the school department, that is a net school eligible cost, so that's paid directly from the school department to the stormwater fee. So that comes in as a revenue within our stormwater fee revenue line item.
Does that, Ms. Hardy, does that offset a cost towards our net school spending?
It is, yes, it's net school spending eligible. That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, so we've got something good out of this then.
Without a doubt.
Hallelujah.
I think so, without a doubt.
So I wanted to follow up also on the Copacut situation there. Does that increase your revenue? Not your specific revenue, does that increase the the sewer department's revenue?
Stormwater increases the amount that we take in stormwater, yes.
So it does increase the revenue?
Yes, so every year, you'll see that, if a new house is built or a new house is charged a stormwater fee, that does go into the stormwater revenue line item, and that does increase the revenue line item, yes.
So is this going to have a negative or positive effect on sewer rates or any other kind of fees going forward?
So every year, when I build my budget, I build in there a percentage of growth within my revenue line items, because anytime a new house would come on board, essentially, you have a new household that's using more water. Whenever a new house comes on, you also have the additional $46 per quarter stormwater fee. So every year, when I build my revenue line items within my budget, I calculate in a % growth.
Okay, just for, I know that we're only speaking on revenues, that's why I'm asking revenue questions, but since we have them here, I did see something in the expenditure area towards the school department concerning CSO. Is it okay to ask or should I wait?
You can ask while he's here.
Okay, so you had the original appropriation for exactly $330,000 for the water CSO charge in the general fund area. I believe it was in the school department section. Now, if anyone wants to see this, it's on page 46 in the Munis year-to-date budget report. But what ended up being expended was $238. Was that just based on less rainwater or stormwater?
I'm not sure about the revenue, the expense line items within the school department, so how the school department works, or fire department, or city hall, from the water and sewer aspect, since we're an enterprise fund, We have an account set up for them, just like we do any other business or any other residential customer. We read their meter just as we do any other household or any other commercial customer. And the multiplication factor for stormwater is attached to their account, just like anybody else. We print out the bills, we distribute those bills to the appropriate department, and then they pay the bills, typically by a transfer rather than having to do the whole check process.
When you have
So-
an appropriation for, well, I guess this was the school budget appropriation, so, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
That's, so,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what
Yeah,
their
yeah.
expense
I understand.
side looks like.
Understand. Thank you. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman seat 8, Councilor Pereira.
Mr. Frillin, I would just suggest that when you get people from the Copacat to talk to them, that you'd also get a hold of the people down on Lake Avenue and Judd Street. Remember, I had talked to you several months ago about Judd Street, because the individual owned houses on either side of Judd Street. On one, he was getting a stormwater fee, and on the other one, he wasn't. I think he was sorry that he looked into it, because now he pays it on both. So you might want to have an explanation to those individuals of why they're paying stormwater if they're also paying to empty out their septic systems. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Yeah, so just one thing with the stormwater fee. The stormwater fee is directly related to maintenance of our stormwater structures or anything like that. Anybody that has the benefit of sewer or water within the city of Fall River, on top of a stormwater fee, they also pay a fee for water usage. They also pay a fee for sewer usage. So again, by the way that the ordinance is stated for stormwater, that's what we're implementing for stormwater fees, so.
Thank you.
Just as a point of information, both in water and sewer enterprise accounts under the revenue expenses in your enterprise accounts, we're seeing surpluses in both of those departments, correct? From the fiscal year 2021?
Yes.
So in water, you're seeing 1.3 million, and in sewer, you're seeing 2.4 million. Is that a common number to be seen as a surplus?
Which lines are you looking at?
Both, I'm talking about your end of year, I'm talking about your enterprise accounts under actuals.
It's very similar to what I just described with the motor vehicle. It's not necessarily common. I mean, there are certainly surpluses in both the enterprise funds, but this past year, a lot of the cash receipts that would have come in for a budgetary purpose in the May and June timeframe were delayed in terms of people were behind in paying their bills. And so we're seeing in fiscal '21 increases in our revenues above and beyond what we would normally expect to see, primarily because at June 2020, there were payments that were lagging behind for both sewer and water, and then in some instances, in some of our general fund revenues.
And that was the year that we didn't approve the water and sewer rate increases until upwards to August or September, right?
That is correct.
So you were able to balance your budget last year without the water and sewer increases for almost 6 months of the fiscal year.
2 months, I believe.
It was 1 month we weren't able to bill out to
Okay.
customers for.
You weren't able to bill out with the increases, right?
Correct, with the increases. We lost 1 month last year for the overall billables. And just one other thing that we did that I noticed when I was reviewing the budget from last year was just some of the timing on when some of the loans were off. So stuff that was budgeted and expected to go out for long-term debt service and payments be due last year, the payments aren't due till this fiscal year.
Fair enough. Any other questions on revenue? Revenue only. Any, Councilor in seat 2, Councilor Dion?
Yeah, I just have one more question. Well, maybe not. In terms of revenue, it's been said that we've had to replace lost revenue, correct?
That's the fiscal '22 budget.
Okay, so '21, we didn't have to replace any revenue whatsoever.
That's correct.
We used CARES money, but we didn't use it to increase,
We
to
only-
balance the budget, correct?
I'm sorry, Counselor. We only used the CARES money for eligible CARES expenditures, so they would have been above and beyond anything that would have been appropriated in the FY '21 budget.
But were any of those items related to revenue in any way?
On the CARES
On the
money?
CARES?
No, I don't believe so. The CARES money, with the $7.9 million was for expenditures only, and they related specifically to eligible expenses under the guidance of the CARES money.
I guess the
So a
council's
lot of it was
question.
PPP money, to be exact.
I think the councilor's question more along the lines is, did you utilize any CARES money that generally would come out of your operating budget? Because some CARES money was considered eligible expenses. So did you utilize any CARES money that you would generally use in your operational budget?
I'm going to answer that as no, because one of the criteria is it could not have been a budgeted expense.
Okay,
With that, I yield.
thank you. Any other questions on revenue? Hearing the expenses. And Mrs. Hardy, while you do your brief presentation on expenses, can you just elaborate to the city council, in the beginning of the budget presentations that we had last year, you articulated that there was a deficit running in police, fire, snow, ice, solid waste, and law. And then as the year ended, those turnbacks seem to have changed, or those deficits seem to have changed. Can you elaborate what changed for those specific departments too?
Certainly. So as you know, the presentation was for information with regard to the FY20 projected results. At some point during the end of May, we put together these projections. The presentation, I believe, was on June 8th. If you look at administrative services, the law department expenses did end the year with a shortfall in their expenses, but they are a division within the Department of Administrative Services. And so in administrative services, there were enough of other turnbacks, if you will, in those divisions that offset the shortfall in the law department, and therefore no deficit needed to be raised or transferred in administrative services. As far as community maintenance is concerned, and we're talking about solid waste, the same is true. There certainly is. If you look at the budget for solid waste disposal, the budget, or the total available was $8.6 million. The expenditures were $8.9 million. But again, there were sufficient turnbacks in cemeteries, engineering, parks, streets, traffic, and trees, which are all divisions within the Department of Community Maintenance. And those, or that particular shortfall in solid waste was covered by the surpluses in the other divisions within community maintenance. The one department, or the one division that stands on its own, is snow and ice, and that amount is still showing a deficit, which we will get hit on our free cash, as well as have to raise on the recap. For the police department had a number of grants that could be offset. There was monies that were due to us from the walking beat, for an example, and there certainly were other areas in the police department, and particularly in the salary line item, that were offset. And so as a result, although we indicated that based on the MOA that was, or MOU that was agreed upon with regard to the patrol, we did not settle the superiors. So as a result, you'll see on tonight's agenda a transfer for the superiors, but as a result, the police ended up with a surplus in the salary line item as well as in their expense line item. That was a little bit different on the fire. The fire still had a shortfall in their salary line item. They have less vacant positions than the police have. In addition, they were able to retain a good amount of their EOPS money in their special revenue fund, much more than half, significantly more than half of the EOPS money was set aside. So the fire department is closing the year with a deficit of $757,537, which will need to be raised on the recap, as well as a hit on the free cash. The other three departments that had shortfalls in the transfers, although was not part of the presentation, was the mayor's office at $1,276, the city council salaries at $352, and the city clerk's salaries at $556. And the reason for those three shortfalls was that the holiday called Juneteenth was passed in Massachusetts after the budget was put together, and the policy within the city of Fall River is if the holiday falls on a Saturday, the staff are paid for that holiday. If the holiday falls on a Sunday, they receive the Monday off. So as a result, each one of these departments have small deficits this past fiscal year, 2021. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you very much. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Dion.
So you said the police department ended up with a surplus?
That's correct.
And how
If
much
you-
was the surplus?
If you look at the page 3, the summary, their total salaries were $21,223,995, and their actual was $21,060,095.
Which is a difference of, let me see, what page are we on now, please?
We are on page 3 of the summary. It's a difference of $163,900 approximately.
Okay. And to settle the Superior contract requires how much? Total?
313,000, that's correct.
So why would we need to transfer 313,000 if we had a surplus of 163,900?
Because we're talking 2 different fiscal years.
FY '22.
Okay. So I'll wait till we get to 22 then. Thank you.
So had we settled the contract in June, May and June, for the Superiors, which we had been negotiating, we would have had a small shortfall in the police department. But we did not, so we need to close fiscal '21 out. It stands on its own. And then fiscal '22, we now need to, or we're here to request this evening, a transfer to cover the retros for both the last 2 fiscal years.
So seeing both years have been brought up, are we able to discuss both, or do we need to wait until we discuss 2022 at this point?
I would think we should probably stick to our 2021 quarter 4 update if we can.
Okay, then with that, I'll yield for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor in seat 1, Counselor Kadim.
Thank you, Mr. President. Typically, when we receive our fourth quarter updates, we're in the month of July, so now that we're midway through August and the reports were printed through August, I'm just looking at the encumbrances carrying over to the next fiscal year. So we're close to $1 million in terms of the encumbrances that are coming up. So can you just walk me through some of these encumbrances? I mean, workers' comp, $225,000. There's $22,000 for recycling. You've got facilities with a total of $272,000. Police department has $181,000 that's being carried over. And a couple of these, electricity, $41,000. So I would think all the invoices would be in by now for payment, so we shouldn't be seeing, significant amounts for encumbrances being carried over to fiscal year '22.
So the encumbrances on the electricity, I believe, are for the solar, because the credits come back pretty late. And I believe that's what those are for. As far as the other amounts that are being encumbered, I will get a report from the city auditor tomorrow and get it off to you, but I do not know what the details of each one of those departments are. I did send an email to everyone and asked them if they had any questions, and I'd be happy to have had the answers for them this evening. I could certainly have done that had I been given that question in advance, but I was not, and I don't know what individual departments are encumbering with purchase orders.
It's a pretty high amount, Mrs. Sahadi, to see encumbrances go that high, and we're all the way through almost the month of August. So tomorrow, if you could please send the city council the updated encumbrance sheet, And is this a common practice to encumber this much money each fiscal year?
Oh, yes, of course. And normally, some of these departments will not close out those purchase orders until sometime mid-year. Ms. Argo takes all of the open purchase orders sometime in the spring and makes sure that they get closed out if, in fact, they are still being carried over from the prior year. But in a lot of instances, items are ordered toward the end of the fiscal year, and the receipt of those goods and services, and particularly goods, are not received until sometime into the next fiscal year, into the months of, July, August, September even. But I can certainly get that list for you, and I can also compare that list for you from the prior year if you would like. The majority of the encumbrances, of course, in this particular case is education at $5,936,990. So the difference that Council Kadim is speaking of is about $800,000, which relates to city departments as opposed to the school department. So the total encumbrances carried forward this year is $6,768,465. And at the end of last year, if you wanted to make a comparison, they were $3,255,000. The biggest difference is education encumbrances fiscal year 20 into the 21 year were $2,865,000, and the 21 into the 22 year for education, as I just said, is $5,936,000.
Mr. President, I mean, with all due respect, this is the common theme. Every time I have a question, I'm told that I have to ask my questions in advance to get the answers. We're at a fourth quarter budget update. The intent is that the council is going to ask questions. All my colleagues ask questions. They've all gotten there and received their answers to their questions, but for some strange reason, I've constantly got to submit my questions in advance to get basic questions answered.
I share your frustration, Counselor. I'll make sure going forward, and Mrs. Sahadi and Mr. McCoy, if you could make sure going forward, if you could try to make sure that you prepare yourselves for anticipated questions going forward, that would be great.
I mean, is it just through you, Mr. President? Is this the new requirement that councilors have to submit their questions in advance to the administration?
No, I mean, look, the reality of the situation, Counselor, is that there are questions that come up when we're looking at this information, and through the course of discussion that might require questions that we might not know earlier on in the day. So no, it's not a new policy, and councilors are free to ask their questions, and I'm hoping that the administration will be able to come prepared to answer those as we go forward.
I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure I'm not missing a policy. With that, I yield.
Fair enough. Councilor in seat 7, Councilor Pelletier.
Mary, is there a shortfall in the law department?
In the law department, that's correct.
There is. And I understand we have an assistant corporation counsel now?
We do.
And how do we find out when they come in? I didn't hear nothing about Mr. Akins. I mean,
Council Pelletier.
What is the question? I'm sorry.
Can you ask the question again?
Yeah,
well, I'm wondering if they got enough money, if they hired assistant corporation counsel, where'd the money come from? But also, I mean, I was notified. I mean, we are the councilors. I don't know if anybody else got notified that we have an assistant corporation counsel. And that's what I was asking about. And it seems to me that, up there, they kind of pass the work out to someone else, another lawyer and all that stuff. So does this mean that the assistant is going to be doing a lot of the work and is still underfunded? That's it.
Well, in terms of the FY22 budget, Corporation Counsel did increase his other professional service line item from $150,000 to $350,000.
Yeah.
So that should take care of his outside labor, outside services for his professional services. And then as far as the Assistant Corporation Counsel in the FY22 budget, it was shown as a vacant position. That is the position that had been filled a while back and was shown as vacant. I can't tell you exactly when the gentleman was hired.
I never have a good rapport up there. He actually does what he wants to do. He's got another 200,000 to disperse if you want somebody else to do a little bit of, he's the corporation counsel. He should be doing the whole thing. So you give him extra money here, you go do this, you go do this. I don't think it's fair. That's all, we're spending money and spending money. The other corporation counsel, Mr. Macy was here all the time. You need anything, he'll take care of it. And he doesn't live up to that same thing. And so I think we're spending more money, taxpayers' money, because he wants to send everything out. So what does he do? Talk about ceremonial, maybe that's what he does. That's it, you know what I mean? But that's the frustration I get with the law department. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions? Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Dion.
Yeah, I just have one question. You said that the fire department is going to come in at a deficit of, how much? 700 and?
I believe 757,000.
757,000, okay. I'm a tad confused, because when we got our presentation a couple of months back, and the FY '21 expenditure, anticipated turnbacks and deficits, the fire department expected deficit was 430,000. The police, there were a number of deficits. And then we were told, because of significant turnbacks, the deficits weren't deficits any longer, including the law department, and the fire was going to come in at 55,000 deficit. Now it's 757,000. How did these changes happen?
That was, go ahead.
I don't recall the 55,000, but the MOU, or the amount was presented in the June 8th presentation, represented the amount of the retros. Since that point in time, I believe the fire department had 2 more unexpected retirements. So those added to the deficit that brought the total deficit to $757,000.
Okay, well, in the presentation, firefighters' contract settled and retro was paid of $596,220 and left an expected deficit of $430,000.
Okay, and so since then, there were 2 buyouts. I believe they were both over $100,000 each, and there may have been some additional overtime, and as I indicated, the fire department chose to leave more than 50% of their EOPS money in the grant for this coming fiscal year.
So how recent were the 2 retirements, or
I believe they were both in June.
both in June? And those would still be reflected in the '21 budget?
Yes.
Yes.
Because they were paid out in June.
And I know I was here, counsel, for those, so I know they were late in the fiscal year.
So,
It's
but yet,
substantial.
but those didn't come up during the discussions at the time?
I was not aware of the 2 retirees, the retirements that were occurring, and they might have actually been 3. I don't know if the chief is still here. No, he left us.
So we didn't discuss it during the budget discussions, which I believe the last one was the 28th, but they were paid out in June. So
Because
were they paid out on the 29th? I mean,
But the budget
I'm trying to-
discussions related to fiscal '22. The payouts were fiscal '21. So we're talking about 2 different fiscal years.
that's true. But in the presentation, we discussed '21. All right. With that, I'll yield for now. Thank you.
Any further questions on expenses with the quarter 4 budget report by councilors? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Item 3 is transfers and appropriations, which is in our full council agenda for item 6. The mayor order appropriating $389,200 from the general fund stabilization to police salaries, community maintenance salaries, with a total of $389,200. That's item 6 on our full council agenda. Is there any discussion regarding this transfer at this time? Councilor in seat 2, Councilor Dion.
Okay. If we go to, all right, we are discussing 2022 now, correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I just want to be sure. So during our budget discussions, Mr. McCoy and myself had an exchange where I stated that there were over $800,000 in raises, et cetera, in the 2022 budget.
For other personnel services,
For other
right?
personnel services, correct. Other personnel costs.
Yep.
So at that time, we were told that other personnel costs reflected raises, positions that had been put back into the budget that had been removed previously. Am I correct so far?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
At the time, you corrected me, you said it wasn't 800,000 and change, it was 722,000. And that really wasn't accurate, because within that number were monies that were being put aside for contractual obligations for contracts that hadn't been settled yet,
Correct.
which reduced it to 500,000 and change. So my question becomes, so we've used ARPA funding to fill holes in the budget to the tune of $4.8 million, using one-time monies. In the budget, under police, which was the contract that you were talking about, future contract settlements, $267,700 was put aside in the budget. Now we want to transfer from a stabilization fund more one-time money for $313,000 to settle a Superior's contract, but yet there's already $267,700 in the budget for that purpose. So why would we be transferring $313,000? Why wouldn't we be asking to be transferred the difference between the two? I'm a little confused.
Well, I think with the two-year retros, Counselor, the Superiors and the environmentals, that entire number was not budgeted in FY '22. I mean, Finance CFO
Well, in
can
number 6.
correct me if I'm wrong.
In number 6, it's stating that for police salaries, we need $313,400, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
But yet there's $267,700 already in the budget.
Right, so that was for anticipated increases in the next year, because all these contracts are open again. And so what we did throughout the entire budget, in every department, as you know, is we set aside a percentage of an increase that we thought we might settle these contracts for. And we included those amounts in other personal costs.
Other personnel costs.
The two contracts that you have in front of you, our expectation is we would have settled those and really thought we were going to have those settled in fiscal '21, and we were going to use fiscal '21 monies to fund these two. These are for 19 and, for 20 and 21 year. Right, so the amount of money you see in the '22 budget is anticipated to settle the next year's contract for both Superiors as well as patrol.
With everyone back at the table, Counselor.
That's correct.
Right.
So can I interject for a moment for clarification purposes?
Sure.
So I think it's pretty clear that the administration knew at the time that the budget was being prepared that you were in negotiations with the Superior Officers Union, and most likely wouldn't it have made sense if we were going to start utilizing other personnel costs to set aside future collective bargaining discussions and settling those, that would actually be included on other personnel costs?
If we would have thought that it would have dragged into fiscal 22, most definitely, Counselor. But
So
there
what's-
was no anticipation in March and February, when we put this budget together, that these three, actually, because we're really talking about Superiors, Environmental, and Teamsters, there was no anticipation at that time that they would not have been settled prior to June 30th.
So what analysis, just out of curiosity, Mr. McCoy or Mrs. Sadi, went into determining what number went in to each and every single department for other personnel costs if you wouldn't include something like this, which you were already at the table negotiating anyway?
Well, Council President Ponte, I think also what delayed the settlement of these things was the arrival of a potential pilot program with the cameras, which now interjected some new factors in negotiating with the Superiors. I mean, as you know, I got here May 20th, but I think that also delayed the settlement of that, because then it ended up where they were not giving anything additional for potential supervisory roles in that potential pilot program that came up, and went back to the 1.5, but that may have also dragged out the bargaining to where we got past July 1. I think that was unanticipated that it was going to take that tact.
Mr. President, perhaps we should allow the chief to come down since he is here.
Sure.
And may be
I-
able to clarify
Sure.
some of this.
Love to have the chief down.
In the meantime, while the chief's coming down, I'm a little confused because to say it wasn't anticipated, we didn't even have the discussions about other personnel costs till the end of June. So I don't understand why this didn't come up during those discussions. But at the same token, we also have community maintenance salaries in this transfer. Do you anticipate, and is everybody under, the contracts, have they all been settled for community maintenance? Are there any upcoming contracts there?
Well, they're all
Everybody's
up
back at
again.
the table.
They're all back at the table again.
Everyone,
All takes us
citywide.
through
So
June.
you also were thinking ahead when in this budget, you put $79,308 in the budget for future contracts for community maintenance as well?
That's correct.
And now we're here looking for $75,800 for contracts now that have been settled?
Right, previous contracts, these are retro pays.
So we infused 4.8 million of one-time monies, creating a structural deficit for all of these things moving forward. And now we create a second structural deficit because we're taking one-time funds and one-time monies out of stabilization to pay past debt, and we're utilizing, and we're making a structural deficit for future contracts. Somehow this isn't making sense to me, that, and especially in the past that I've heard so many times, that there are people who don't believe in using one-time monies all the time for certain expenditures. But first, we'll go back to the chief and let the chief explain, please, if he can.
I'm sorry, Counsel?
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's good. Yeah, so we're basically talking about these different contractual obligations, past, future, present. Can you add anything to this conversation?
Just to piggyback on what Mr. McCoy said, I know there was some delays without getting into too deep into it, there were some unexpected delays with negotiations with the superior officers relative to the pilot program for body-worn cameras. Quite unexpected, to be quite frank with you. So I know that slowed that process down significantly.
So I guess we would all agree that obviously things were slowed down, but nevertheless, we were all well aware at the end of June, the budget season, the fiscal year was ending, contracts hadn't been settled, negotiations were still ongoing. But yet here we are with two different types of one-time funds being utilized for future and past. So I don't know that it's totally, I think it's a little ingenuous to say we weren't aware when we were at the end of June and talking about this.
But this budget was put together in February and March and as early as January, and it was presented to you in early May.
Correct.
So
But
there
no
was
change.
the anticipation in early May that both these contracts, or all three of these contracts, would have been settled prior to June 30th.
Right, that was the anticipation, but it was pretty obvious by June 28th that that wasn't happening.
We understand that, but
And
the
don't we
budget
always
was-
hear that the budget is a living document that changes constantly? So I don't understand why this didn't change as the anticipation changed and as the obvious, that you hadn't settled the contracts, that wasn't changing either prior to the end of the fiscal year. So let me ask a question in regards to this, because has the Department of Revenue approved $4.8 million of ARPA funding being used for revenues in this budget?
The Department of Revenue does not approve the eligible uses of federal money. That would be the Treasury.
Okay.
But, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So, let me clarify that. So the Department of Revenue would look at our expenses and our revenue, correct? At the end of the year when it comes to the certification of our tax rate.
That's correct.
And would they be looking at your expenses and your revenue to see if your expenses exceed your revenue? And would there be a problem with that, I guess it would probably be her question.
So, assuming that the calculation of lost revenue is approved by the Treasury, then the Department of Local Services would accept that calculation.
If, right, though, right?
I was just going to say, so at this point, this is all based on an if. So if the Treasury doesn't, the Department of Revenue won't certify our tax rate in November. Would that be a correct statement?
Well, if
Seeing we're
the,
talking ifs and we have no definites.
if the calculation is not approved, then the administration would need to come back to you with reductions in the appropriations.
So is it feasible to say that if this happens, that you can find a way to replace 4.8 million in lost revenues?
Well, we would have to work together, Mr. McCoy and myself, the mayor, and we would have to look at the details within the budget, and at that time, come to this council with a plan to either increase revenue from another source or reduce the appropriations.
And none of this would happen until November.
That's correct.
That's a problem. That's a big problem. So let's assume, seeing we're going under ifs and maybes, that you can't, that the administration cannot find a way to replace this one-time money that created a structural deficit. The city, we don't have the money. Have there been any discussion, or has anybody thought about whether you would end up having to go to the debt exclusion to replace this money?
I'm sure that's a possibility. We have not determined that that would be a necessity at this particular point. We are pretty confident that the calculation of lost revenue is accurate. We are waiting on the Treasury to opine on the actual calculation.
So we're going to continue to take one-time funds from two different funding sources, not knowing if anything's going to be approved, realizing the possibility exists that we could be almost $5 million in the hole in November, and the taxpayer of this city possibly have to pick up the tab by the debt exclusion being incorporated, because that would be the only way to save the day. I don't know. For me, I don't even know how to wrap my head around that. I think that's terrible, terrible budgeting. And I don't know. With that, I'll yield for now.
Has there been, just to our councilor's point, has there been discussion, Mrs. Sahadi, with the Treasury and the Department of Local Services in terms of this current situation? Because I'm sure we're not the only city or town dealing with this.
We are not. It's an issue with all of the gateway cities. The issue is in other states, and we had, or I personally had a long conversation with actually the president of the MMA just on Friday. The issue is Chapter 70 considered restricted revenue when it comes through for state aid? Or is it considered general revenue by the definition? And that's the issue that's at hand, because in many of the other states in the United States, state aid for education does not come through as it does in Massachusetts on the cherry sheet. So the question is if Chapter 70 is considered restricted aid for education, then the calculation of lost revenue is about $5.3 million or somewhere in there. If in fact the state aid to education is considered a general revenue, the city of Fall River, the city of New Bedford, Lowell, Taunton, I mean, I've spoken to Springfield, we've been on the phone with a number of communities. No one would have lost revenue. And so the problem is, if you're in our neighbor state in Rhode Island and they get their state aid for education and they call it restricted aid, their calculation for lost revenue does not include the education portion of it. If you are in Massachusetts and you look at your cherry sheet and you say that state aid to education is a general revenue, then in Massachusetts, none of the communities, and in our case, it's majority of the issue is with the gateway cities because of the Student Opportunity Act, but none of the communities would have any lost revenue. And so that's the question at hand right now.
So as a point of information, it's clear that we might not be the only city dealing with the issue, but the reality is before us, we would have to certify our tax rate come November, which is in mid-November. And if the revenue and the expenses don't work out, we may have a serious problem if we don't get the cooperation from the U.S. Treasury and DLS.
Yeah,
Okay, and let's be
and it's
clear,
not
this-
DLS, it's the Treasury. So, yes, that is
Okay.
correct. So
Counselor?
we have been working with, most recently with Lowell, in the past with Springfield. I mean, everyone is on board with the same issue at hand with regard to state aid to education.
Counselor in seat 1, Counselor Kadim.
Did you yield?
I did.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to kind of piggyback on this conversation because I think if we just rewind about a month and a half when the city council was discussing the budget and then the mayor submitted his little press release about the fact that we have an approved budget, at least I had a statement. I think a couple of my colleagues shared the same concern that we had all this one-time money. We had close to $5 million in lost revenue. We had $1.6 million in one-time money for the ESSER funds that was going to contribute to the city's contribution for net school spending, which a letter just came down. We can't use the $1.6 million, so add that to the $5 million. And then the mayor decided that, you know what, he wanted to play the gotcha game. The budget was passed, and meanwhile, we've been trying to have this conversation and really be at least fiscally responsible and talk about presenting a budget to Councilor in Seats 2 point that doesn't create structural deficits, because that's all it is. You know, we blame the career administration with playing three-card Monte with the budget, and that's exactly what this administration's doing now. It's all this one-time money that's being utilized to supplement revenues that we don't have. That is the pure definition of a structural deficit. We've been having a structural deficit for years now, and this administration refuses to have the conversation with the city council. So at what point do we start talking about the $1.6 million that is no longer available for minimum net school spending? We're just going to kick the can down the road for that, right? Because we're not going to meet our contribution. And to Councilor in Seat 2's point, if we wait for the Treasury and we wait for the certification of our tax rate, we're now talking about November and December. So that $5 million now becomes a $10 million nut, because now we've just spent 50% of our budget, right? So if we can't do it through expenses, then we got to lay people off. If we've got to lay people off, that means unemployment costs are going to go up. So that means for every one person we lay off, we're going to have to lay off another half of a full-time equivalent, so a half a body. So that's essentially 2 people that you're going to have to lay off. Is that what we're prepared to do? Or we're just going to go to the debt exclusion, what the administration has promised and stated over and over again when we went for the new Durfee, that we would not see the debt exclusion for a specific time period, which was, I believe, 2023. And we continue to have that conversation. So now we're just going to throw it down the taxpayers' back again. We've got water and sewer rates that continue to increase, but yet the administration does not want to come down and have a conversation with the city council. And it's all because we don't know how to meet our deadlines. When this city council has asked repeatedly at the last council meetings to have the administration come down and let's have a discussion about how we're going to fund this budget. See, they were short-sighted. That's the problem. They played the game with the city council. They told the city council, we don't need your approval. By right, we have the approval. The problem that they're facing now is that they don't have all the appropriations that they need. So they need us. So now they want to come to the table, but not fully. So from a political standpoint, we'll blame the city council for not doing their job, and then we'll come down because we need appropriations and we're going to start dealing with all these transfers. I don't know. I think it's ridiculous, personally. In terms of the contracts that we have before us, when were the contracts approved by the city council?
They're the 2 that we're talking about this evening. They're
Police and community maintenance.
They're in your agenda tonight.
And those, and we're looking for the stabilization,
That's correct.
and that includes, you're saying it only includes the retro, so
That's
we're not
correct.
doing
So,
FY '22?
On the Superiors, it's a little over, it's close to 99,000 for the first year and 204,000 for the second. So we rounded that to 303. And for the environmental, it's 3569 for the first year, 6803 for the second year, so we rounded that to 104.
And so then we're back at the table for FY '22
That's
for
correct.
negotiations on both units. And so total contract costs for for those two contracts are what appears before us, the 313,000 and 75,000?
For Superiors and environmental, that's correct.
Okay. With that, I yield.
Any further questions? If I may just briefly go back to your comment on when it comes to the police department in terms of retros. Mrs. Sahadi, in your sheet that you gave us during the budget deliberations, there was an amount, like our colleague in seat 2 indicated, in the amount of $257,687 on your sheet that you spoke about the 1.5% increase for unions and management. So what went into that $257,687, to our colleague's point about this current transfer that's before us?
And nothing with regard to this current transfer. It was an amount that was being calculated, and we weren't really speaking of the percentage, although I did share that sheet with you, for the FY '22 negotiations, because we're hoping to continue to settle these contracts on a more timely basis, and we would need another percentage of money within the FY '22 budget to settle we're hoping to be back on track, so it would be the '22, '23, and '24 budgets. So the
Okay.
'22 budget would include this fiscal year that we are in, the anticipated increase for all of the unions within the police department, as well as all of management, as well as they asked me for the clerks and the dispatches, sorry.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, motion to adjourn the Committee on Finance.
So moved.
Made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
1-minute break. Taking a break. 5-minute break.
If you need one,
Yep. Two. Five.
Fall River City Council meeting will now be called to,
Not true.
oh, where's our clerk?
Yep.
Both clerks. We're not in order. We haven't started
not in
yet.
order.
Disregard. Fall River City Council meeting will now be called to order. Madam Clerk, good evening. Roll call, please.
Councilors Kadim? Here. Dion?
Here.
Kilby? Here. Royal Liberty LeBeau? Here. Lee?
Here.
Peckham? Pelletier?
Here.
Pereira?
Ladies first.
And President Ponti.
Here. If everybody in the chamber can please rise for a moment of silent prayer, please. And I ask you if you could keep former Councilor Alves in your prayers. His birthday was, I believe it was yesterday, would have been 74. So if you can keep him in your prayers as well. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Councilor Lee.
Ron, you can come down. So, a little backstory here. No, Ron, you can come all the way down.
You can come around, Ron.
Ron, come this way.
A little backstory. Ron was, a while back, was asking or talking to me about his brother. A lot of accomplishments. He was a high school graduate from Bishop Connolly. Served as a physician over the past few decades at St. Anne's X-ray Nuclear Medicine, Allied Health at Northeast University, Faulkner Hospital, Mass General Hospital, and Newton Wellesley Hospital, where he was the recipient of the Honorable Reginald C. Lindsay Award for providing quality care and patient safety while promoting compassion. This would be a posthumous citation for Mr. Paul R.L. Roy. Come on down. So I let Mr. Ron know that this was my very first citation, and I'm very honored to do so in his brother's honor.
Yeah.
My father was chief of radiology.
Mr. Roy.
Is there a motion to take items 10 out of order?
Motion made.
Motion to take
Second.
item 10 out of order made by Councilor Pelletier, seconded by Councilor Kilby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Madam Clerk.
Item number 10 is the mayor's communication and TIF agreements, tie agreements. Do you want to take each separately?
Each item individually, yes.
Okay. The first is the tie agreement for 529 Eastern Avenue LLC.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by Councilor Kadim. Discussion. Councilor in seat 7, Councilor Pelletier.
Just a few words. You know, people take these old buildings and old mills and they make them good and they spent a lot of money and it's good for the city of Fall River. Just like the police station, it's been at least 20 years, I believe. We finally got wheels on it, it's gonna move. Same thing on Eastern Avenue and the other two in front of us. So I've always supported this, this is the way to go. People are spending money, making Fall River look much better, so I'm certainly gonna support all three with them. I yield, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor in seat 5, Councilor Lee.
Yeah, just in general with TIF and tie agreements and all these different, there's always different opinions on these situations, and the truth of the matter is if people aren't investing in the city, we're going to lose out on jobs. If people aren't investing in TIFs in the city, we're going to lose out on jobs. We're going to lose out on property tax, property tax revenue that would help our community. So I don't see why we would be turning these opportunities down, other than any kind of personal problems with people. So I'm in agreement. I think that we should be trying to promote more business and more ownership in the city, and I'd love to see more diversity in that. So this is where we start. So that I yield.
Thank you. Motion to, further discussion, Councilor in seat 7, Councilor Pelletier.
You know, the ladies in the audience brought these posters like a boxing ring, so I like them to show it. And this would be, whose poster is that?
That's for the one on Eastern Avenue,
Oh,
the
yeah.
old Notre Dame.
It looks good. Very nice. Any more poster girls?
No, that one's not yet, not yet.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Mr. President, I'm still in my seat. I'm not the president yet. I apologize.
Yeah, you're funny.
I yield.
Thank you. Anything further on
Roll
item
call.
A, please? Item A. Hearing none, motion to adopt the tie agreement for 529 Eastern Avenue LLC located at 529 Eastern Avenue has been made and seconded. Hearing no further discussions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item B, please.
Item
10B.
B is the tie agreement for 66 Troy Street LLC.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion. Councilor in seat 7, Councilor Pelletier, you want to raise the
Yeah, I like to see the girls raise the sign. Beautiful sign.
this is Troy Street, right?
Yeah, that's Troy.
Troy.
It's inside, yeah. Oh, good luck with that. Very good. Doing a good job, Anthony. Oh, okay. Okay, no problem.
Good job,
You-
Merrill.
You yield, Councilor?
Oh, yeah.
Councilor in seat 3, Councilor Kilby.
I feel compelled to comment. The Cadero family has done so much in my mind as when you drive around the city and you see the older buildings that he's rehabbed and repurposed. I've known Mr. Cadero since I think I was a sophomore in high school, but sincerely, when I drive around the city, I look at this building, this building, this building, this building. One individual, I'm really proud of the work that you've done over your career, Mr. Cadero, and I just felt I have to say that. So, thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, motion to adopt the tie agreement for 66 Troy Street LLC located at 66 Troy Street. Roll call, please.
The other one was in favor.
Roll call, please.
Oh, because he has to abstain.
On adoption of
He has to
the
abstain.
tie agreement for 66 Troy Street LLC, Councilors Kadim?
Yes.
Dion?
Yes.
Kilby?
Yes.
La Liberty LeBeau?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Peckham? Pelletier?
Yes.
Pereira?
Yes.
And President Ponti.
Abstain.
And item C is the tie agreement for Downtown
to
Development
adopt.
LLC
Second.
located at 38 3rd Street.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Is there discussion? Councilor in seat 8, Councilor Pereira.
Yeah, I do want to say something on this building. When we were at the meeting, the TIF board meeting to talk about these tie projects, this 38 3rd Street is the old International Lady Garment Workers Credit Union, and it has a sentimental value to many of the women that worked in the factories in Fall River years ago, because that's where they would go for their physicals, all the medical stuff was done there. So we did ask the Cadero family if, when it was completed, if we could have a tour, because I think there'd be a lot of people who'd want to walk through it one last time to reminisce. And also, I'd like to add, I'm the only counselor on this council, some people weren't here years ago when I were, others were, that voted for you to get the police station. You remember that, Tony? Because that would have been taken care of. So I just wanted to remind you of that fact. So I am proud to push this forward too. And if you could show us a picture. And they will keep the logo up that says, you know, ILGW. And even other members that were there, one gentleman in the meeting said that he brought his mother from Boston for her physical there yearly. And he had a tear in his eye when we reminisced about it. I remember bringing my Vavo. Jack Medeiros' wife was a secretary over there for years. So it has a lot of sentimental value to several people in the community. I wish you nothing but success and health. Thank you. With that, I yield.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion to adopt has been made and seconded. Roll call.
On adoption of the agreement, Councilors Kadim?
Yes.
Dion?
Yes.
Kilby?
Yes.
Bella Liberty LeBeau?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Peckham? Pelletier?
Yes.
Pereira?
Absolutely, yes.
And President Ponti?
Abstain. Next order of business.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Mr. President, could we take item 5 out of the agenda because she has been waiting a bit?
Motion to take item 5 out of the
Second.
agenda made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by Councilor Kadim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 5.
Item number 5 is the mayor's request for the confirmation of the appointment of Michaela Brito as the city's veterans agent.
Motion to adopt?
Motion
Second
to
to
adopt the
adopt.
appointment made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Do we have discussion, Councilor, in seat 5, Councilor Lee?
Just based on the position that I hold on the council as the Veterans Liaison, and a handful of people come up to me ahead of time, no questions, but a handful of people come up to me ahead of time and just expecting me to come down here and grill you and all this and that. It's not going to happen. We were very spoiled with Ray Haig. Ray Haig was a very unique individual. He was a city councilor. I'm sorry?
No.
Oh,
Council
okay.
President wasn't recognizing me, that's all.
Oh, I apologize.
You're good.
But Ray Haig was a city councilor in Fall River, and he just so happened to become the VSO. And that is not something that happens commonly all over the place. And he had a very deep connection to all the veterans in the city, and a deep connection to all the veteran organizations in the city. Just you could ask him anything, and on the spot he knew it. And it's going to take time for you to get to that level. It might take a while for you to get to that level. You have to build a lot of relationships and nail down your job for the 115As and everything else that you're going to have to do. So we have to give that an opportunity to grow. We have to give a chance to do. So we're gonna step back and allow you to do your job, and hopefully 5-6 months down the line you come back to the city council, let us know how it's going, and anything that we can do as a council to assist you, we're here for you. So with that I yield. Thank you.
Councilor in seat 1, Councilor Kadim.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the recognition.
My pleasure.
So I did ask around once I received this about the candidate, and I'll tell you the only reason I'm going to support it is because I was told it was a 2-for-1, so that rabbit comes with her. And so I was like, okay, so we get a rabbit, we get a pet rabbit. I didn't realize it was a pony, but she's here with Rabbit, who's a service dog, so I will be supporting it just because I think Rabbit's cute, so you're welcome. I yield.
Anything further? Councilor in seat 8, Councilor Pereira.
I would just have to take the time to say that in looking at Ms. Brito's resume, it's pretty impressive. And one thing that I think we are lacking, I'm around the veterans groups a lot, but I don't see a lot of women veterans coming to things in Fall River, and I don't know what the reason for that is. But I think that Ms. Brito has a very strong connection to women veterans and able to help them. My daughter has a good friend who is a veteran of the Navy, and she said, well, I don't really get involved because it seems to be all men. So I think that that's something that we can work on here. And certainly women going to the vet center or to the Corky Row on a Wednesday, there are many men and women there and couples there where they would feel comfortable. I mean, the guys are pretty cool down there. They're a pretty good group. But I wish you success in this, and as one of the counselors, if you need anything, please feel free to call. Colleen gives my cell phone number to everyone. That's what it's for. But if there's anything I can do to help, absolutely. And I know you have a radio show too. So maybe we can talk about all of the veterans' things that we have in Fall River to make other people in the South Coast aware of the fact. We are having, on 9/11, we always have our 9/11 ceremony, but we're also this year dedicating the Heritage Park Visitor Center to Thomas Hudner, who was a Medal of Honor recipient. So that'll happen at 12 o'clock. Maybe you could talk about that on the radio and bring some people down to honor Mr. Hudner. But thank you very much. I'm glad you applied for the job, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. You yield?
I yield.
Thank you. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Dion.
Yeah, lately we've had a lot of discussion about appointments and qualified people and resumes, and I'm happy to see you've probably submitted the most extensive qualified resume I've seen since I've been on the council. And I'd like to welcome you to Fall River. I don't think, based on your resume, it's going to take you long to get up to speed. I think your background and the things you've already done and accomplished, you may be ahead of us even. So thank you for applying, thank you, and welcome to Fall River. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Motion to,
Motion to
Motion
adopt.
made.
And I love your dog.
Motion made.
That's
How can I
Rabbit.
not see that dog?
That's
if you want to come right up and speak.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. Rabbit was a Great Dane.
That's awesome, that's awesome.
Who's gonna do the talking?
You can just go right up to the microphone.
You're not supposed to pet service dogs.
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Oh, okay.
You can't touch her.
Can't touch
You
it,
can't pet her.
can't do
Just
that.
look at her.
I just want to say thank you for having your confidence in allowing me to become your next Veteran Service Officer. As you said, Ms. Pereira, I do have a weekly radio show,
Yep.
and that's all that I do. It's called Ask the Veterans Agent, and that's all we do is talk about different veterans events, whether it be Chapter 115 benefits, whether it be VA regulations, or as simple as having a discussion on women veterans. Or today, we actually spoke about Afghanistan and the fact that we can't allow our veterans who have served in both Afghanistan and Iraq to realize that what they had was for naught, because for 20 years, we've been over there and we've been taking care of business. And for any of our veterans who are either OEF or OIF veterans, they're important, and we need to support them, because right now there are many veterans who are taking their own lives because they feel that what they did over there was for naught. So I'm very passionate about my job, and I will hit the ground running. And Ray already has introduced me to a lot of the players down here on the Veterans Council. And yes, ma'am, I do veterans VA claims, so we're going to start doing those VA claims right here in the community instead of having them sent out to other organizations, which will also bring in tax-free money from the federal government that then will be spent right here in Fall River.
It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to approve the appointment has been made and seconded. Hearing no further discussions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations. You want to just,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Thank you all for coming down. Very nice. Welcome, thank you.
Congratulations.
Air Force. Congratulations, good luck. I get that all the time. Good.
Nice.
Council.
That was very nice of a lot of the veterans coming down to
Yeah.
support. Thank you.
Yeah, you need both.
I measure my life and how many
Yeah, I'm on the last.
Oh, thank you.
So just in case everybody isn't aware, we had,
One more will be my last.
thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks. All right.
Council President?
Counselor in seat 7, Council Pelletier?
Yeah, the Deputy Director of EMS is here, and she's number 55 on the agenda. And I told her she really didn't have to stay for 3 banners. I wonder if we can take it out of order,
50.
number 55.
55. Item number 55 on our agenda, taken out of order, made by Councilor
So moved.
Pelletier, seconded by Councilor Kadim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 55.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, you can bring them down. Yep. Motion to approve. Madam Clerk, if you just introduce the item, please. Item
Yes.
55.
Item number 55 is the request from the EMS, the Deputy Director, to place 3 banners on the railings at Government Center for National Overdose Awareness Day.
I love seeing.
Motion to approve has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion. Hearing that, just as a point of information, I know there's a sheet being passed out now. International Overdose Awareness Day in Fall River is on August 31st. We're going to have it right outside of the Post Office Square on the north side of Fall River Government Center. The resources and the memorial displays between 4:30 and 6:30 on the 31st. Then there'll be live music, speakers, a memorial video, and a procession between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. Again, that's on International Overdose Awareness Day this year on August 31st, right outside of Government Center, for everybody who's at home who wishes to participate. Motion to approve has been made and seconded. Hearing no further discussions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next order of business.
So the first item on the agenda is the communication from the mayor and an order appropriating $1,677,400 from the general fund stabilization to facilities maintenance capital, community maintenance capital, police capital, fire and emergency services capital.
Is there a motion to lift the item from the table?
Motion made.
Motion to lift the item from the table is made by Councilor Pelletier. Do we have a second? Seconded by Councilor Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Is there a motion? Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kilby. Do we get a second? Seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion. Council in seat 2, Councilor Dion.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions if Mrs. Sahadi.
Motion to waive the rules has been
Motion
made
to-
by
yes.
Councilor Dion, seconded by Councilor Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mrs. Sahadi.
Yes.
Meeting. Works for him. Councilor Dion.
On page 409 in the budget book, let me get to the page. It's under capital improvement plan. And there are authorized amounts in this section. Do any of these overlap with this request? Are these totally separate requests? Because we have facilities maintenance capital, community maintenance capital, police capital, et cetera.
Right, these capital items, some of them may overlap. I have to go grab my budget book, I left it up there. But these are the items that were asked to be funded in the FY '22 budget that need a 2/3 vote because they're coming from stabilization. So they're on page 57 in your budget book.
So I guess what I'm asking is if they do overlap, have some of the monies already been appropriated, though?
No, the capital improvement plan is just that, it's a plan. Nothing in that plan has necessarily been appropriated. If we've come to you with anything specific in that plan, we would have asked for the Thanks, Tim. We would have asked for an appropriation or a bond issue.
Okay, so even though we have authorized amounts, one has nothing to do with the other.
Well, I'm sorry, can I just take 2 seconds to find what you're looking at?
Yes, please. Page 409.
Okay, so on page 409, these do not overlap. These are previous bond authorizations that the city council has voted.
Okay, that's what I wanted to check to make sure.
I'm sorry, I was thinking about the actual capital plan.
And that applies to all of them.
That's correct.
Okay, with that I yield, thank you.
Motion to, Councilman seat 1, Councilor Kadim.
Just in terms of where my vote's going to be, so I'm not going to be supporting this. Again, I think this falls in line with the one-time monies that are coming in and not having any conversations about the ESSA monies or the ARPA money coming in. I think the totality of the conversations needs to take place. I don't think we should be piecemealing this, and that's, in my opinion, isn't good government. I think we should have the administration before us completely identifying what the exposure is for the city long-term, since appropriations are not there, and there's a lot of uncertainties in terms of revenues that have been projected. So I'm not comfortable supporting this, and that's just my stance. I yield.
Councilor in seat 5, Councilor Lee.
Ms. Sahadi, the previous conversations that we had on this, it didn't appear that you were confident in how we were going to address the $4.8 million. If there were a lot of ifs thrown around in that conversation, are you able to clarify what would happen if we are stuck with this kind of deficit? Because
Yes.
that's how my vote's going to go, and I'm just not seeing it right now. I'm in a no category right now too.
Yes, so certainly. So, obviously it would have to be a discussion with the administration, with the mayor, in terms of the ultimate decision that will be made. There certainly may be the need to reduce appropriations within the budget. There could be the use of, again, one-time money, using some of the stabilization money to fund the budget. There is certainly some new growth that was underestimated in the FY22 budget when it was provided to you that will be increasing during the recap process. And again, there are other areas of the ARPA money that can be utilized for the budget other than the lost revenue. One of them has to do with an area where if we're funding the budget with new positions and not new positions that hadn't previously been funded, but positions that had been eliminated from the FY21 budget, to include the benefits for those positions. In our case, there are 27 positions that are in the 22 budget that are being funded that were removed from the 21 budget based on the uncertainties. And so those dollars can also be utilized out of ARPA money to fund the FY22 budget. So there are a number of areas that we need to look at with regard to both the use of the American Plan Rescue money, which quite frankly, part of the purpose of that plan, which is why some of these provisions in terms of eligible areas or eligible categories have been included, is to make governments whole from where they were prior to the pandemic, and that's what they're doing. So one of them, of course, is the lost revenue. We talked about that earlier today with regard to the actual calculation of the lost revenue. Another one is funding or refunding positions that had been funded in previous budgets but removed from the FY21 budget. In our case, there are 21 of those positions.
So the it's about 4.8 or 4.9, correct? It's not accurate right now? It's
Right,
sort of
it's still an estimate, because
Right.
even with regard to the local receipts, we really have until the recap to shore up what those estimates will be within the budget.
Are we 100% sure that this was created because of COVID-19?
What was created?
Whatever we're facing for $4.8 to $4.9 million.
The ARPA money? The ARPA money?
Well, the deficit itself, not the ARPA itself. Was it
No.
created because of that, or was it created because of just budgeting mistakes?
No, there aren't budgeting mistakes. The 4.8 million is a calculation excluding Chapter 70, is the reduction in the revenue that the city received over a 2-year period. The 2 years that the Treasury has provided us with the calculation in terms of you look at your local receipts in 1 year, and then you look at them at the end of last fiscal year, and that's how you calculate the lost revenue. The outstanding question is, do you include Chapter 70 as a general revenue? So yes, our revenue was lower. Our revenue was lower in a lot of areas in the local receipt. I mean,
And my
just
question
look
was
at the
based
cannabis
on.
money, right?
So the question that I had was, were we low because of COVID-19?
We were. So
Okay.
one in particular is look at the cannabis, right? Recreational was closed for a number of months.
Sure.
So clearly, we didn't have the revenue that we had anticipated because the government, with the pandemic and the emergency, closed down all recreational sales. And so as a result, that was lost revenue.
Because I think I'm pretty sure some have already determined, but I think what we're trying to determine is, was it poor practice or was it just an anomaly from the pandemic? I think that's what we're trying to
No, it
ultimately
was,
get to the bottom line
I
on.
would not say at all that it was poor practice. It is definitely lost revenue, which is part of Biden's relief bill. I mean, that was the whole point, or one of the points. I mean, certainly there are other areas in terms of economic, negative economic impact. There's certainly areas of infrastructure, both sewer, water, and broadband. There is still some public health categories within. That's the category that you approved the Operation Compass out of. That falls into the public health category within the eligible plan. Now, is the police department, and I know the chief has left for this evening, but is he doing more as a result of the pandemic in order to provide the city with better public health? And that is primarily, a chunk of what President Biden wanted to do with this bill.
Okay, I yield.
You yield?
Yes, I yield, sorry.
I think just to recap this, right, I think the concern, Mrs. Sahadi, and I think you would agree, is that the councilors are concerned, at least from what I see, that we used $4.8 million of one-time monies to use for revenues that were considered loss, and if for some reason we can't use that revenue, and you or the administration or future administration needs to go to the debt exclusion as a result of that, when we promise the residents that we won't do it, is the ringing bell from what I see.
Yeah, and I understand that, Council President, and certainly that's no one's intention, you know that.
Yep.
It's not the mayor's intention, it's certainly not my intention, and I know it's not any of your intentions at this particular point. As I just indicated, another section of the bill that allows us to backfill the budget with positions that we have now included in this budget that we eliminated from the FY21 budget because of the uncertainties is the concept of the positions. Now, if we take 27 positions, because I've looked at that, we take 27 positions, I have not gone back to see exactly who they are and what the salaries are, but if you look at an average salary, then you add benefits, so pension and health care, you probably have a $4 million expense right there that we could utilize ARPA money for. So there are other mechanisms, and certainly we are working on it on a daily basis. We are looking at some of our revenue, as we indicated a little bit earlier. As you know, we sold some tax title property this past year. I mean, I know you're going to say that's one time, but every year there's certain revenue sources within the budget that are one time that we receive the proceeds in fiscal '22. Not included in the budget. We didn't know we were going to sell the property. We didn't know what the selling price was going to be, but we will have a revenue source in the FY22 budget when we go to do the recap under non-recurring receipts, and I believe the property on North Main Street sold, and I don't have that information right in front of me, but I believe it sold for $500,000. So there's $500,000 that wasn't included in this document as a source of revenue that, as of today, we've already received. So yes, we are working on it. There is no intention at this point to go to the debt exclusion. Again, there's certainly some new growth that we are anticipating, higher than what was originally estimated by the assessor's office. And then, you know, if worse comes to worse and we can't have enough of sources of revenue, then we will look at some of the areas, if there's any area where we can cut an appropriation. I mean, right now, if you looked at your fourth quarter report, that we didn't get to the tab on health insurance, but the employer health insurance trust fund is the highest it's been in years. Yeah, I think it was as low as $300,000 at one point, and I think it's close to $6 million right now. So the trust fund has a significant amount of money in it. You know, each year over the last 2 years, there was discussion about whether or not all of this elective surgery was going to happen and cause our claims to increase significantly, and that hasn't happened. You know, is it going to happen in '22? I don't know. Can Blue Cross project that? They cannot. I mean, everybody's looking at this year and a half as really being a year and a half of uncertainty. And as I said earlier, when you're making your comparisons and you're looking at your local receipts from 20 to 21, and then certainly what's budgeted in 22, I mean, we've got areas that, you know, there's going to be ups and downs that are going to have to be considered unusual for that particular expense or revenue line item in the year of the pandemic. It's going to be that way. I mean, you're going to see cannabis money up, you're going to see it down, and this coming year, you're going to see it back up. You know, we had a year where we had a lot of revenue losses, so we had areas that we lost revenue receipts that we would have collected. And we talked earlier about water and sewer, and I mentioned it as it related to motor vehicle. You know, last May and June, the collections weren't where they were. I mean, the commitments from the Registry of Motor Vehicles were behind. And so as a result, if they're behind, they don't go out, the bills don't go out, the bills aren't due. And so we're talking about a crossover between 2 fiscal years. So there are a lot of things in the actuals and a lot of things in the budget that I think are going to, you know, carry on even into probably '23 in terms of unique to the pandemic.
Counselor in
helps.
seat 2, Counselor Dion.
Did you say that we lost revenue in marijuana sales in '21?
21, yes.
It was 20.
20, I'm sorry.
20.
20,
Oh, I was going to say,
I'm sorry, 20.
but then we exceeded in '21.
That's correct.
So 320,000 over what we anticipated. How short were we in '20?
I didn't bring my fourth quarter report. They were at least a quarter of the year because they were closed in March for recreational.
So if you're anticipating, let's see, 700, so 375,000 would be 25% of 1.5 million, and we exceeded 21 by 320,000. So in essence, we were $5,000 shy of both, if you combine the 2 years of coming in where we should have come in.
I don't,
in other
why would we
words-
combine the 2 years? We
Well, I
look
know,
at 1 year at a time.
I guess what I'm saying
so
is,
we
yes,
don't
we were short in
combine.
20, but then we were over
the-
by 300, by 25% in '21. So we can compensate with the funding for lost revenues in 2020? Fiscal
Yes.
year 2020, which was
Yes,
year
'cause that is-
219?
That's the year with the lost revenue, that's correct.
But COVID was in 2020. I don't follow that. 2 questions. So the 27 positions, if realistically, if we did not have ARPA funding, do we have the revenues to substantiate those 27 positions?
We've just had that conversation. We're looking at utilizing lost
I know you're talking about
revenue.
utilizing, but right now, if we didn't have ARPA funding, would you have had 27 additional positions in a 2022 budget?
Not without the debt exclusion.
Okay, thank you. With that, I yield.
Counselor in seat 1, Counselor Kadim.
Thank you. So I wrote down uncertainty, and then, the CFO mentioned uncertainty, and I think to Counselor in seat 5's line of questioning, I think there's just way too much uncertainty when we start talking about what we're dealing with. And let's be frank, and I know folks probably don't want to hear this, but Mayor Coogan is asking for another 2 years. He's not thinking long-term. Some of our councilors here are going to be sitting here and having to deal with the fallout if we're not planning properly. You cannot argue the fact, when you open up the budget book, that our revenue numbers are at 2% and our expenses are exceeding, you start looking at the big expense line items, 5%, 6%, 8%, 20%. Our revenues are just not in line with the growth of our expenses. That is a structural deficit. When you start looking at the monies coming in for ARPA funds, so, as stated by the CFO, it's a formula. We don't have to prove that there was lost revenue. It's based on that our revenue numbers are down. There is no guarantee after this money is gone that we're going to recoup or the revenue numbers are going to bounce back to a point, because we haven't truly identified $4 million in lost revenue. So if we came back and said, yes, we've lost $4 million in marijuana sales, but we know they're going to open back up and we have $4 million, that's one thing. But we've got documentation before us that is clearly showing that our revenue numbers are not in line with the expenses. We can go back to healthcare. Healthcare is probably one of our biggest fixed costs increase that we see on a year-to-year basis. That is lower than it's been since COVID hit. But it's starting to make an increase. We don't know what it's going to look like. So yes, we might be able to have a savings there. But until we can have, again, a conversation to talk about, is this a sustainable budget, which I say no, and what we need to do to start having conversations about reducing the budget now, not waiting to November, not playing, because all essentially what we're doing is we're putting a bullet in a gun, turning the barrel and then playing Russian roulette with taxpayer money. We're going to hope that in November, that when we pull the trigger, that the gun doesn't go off. But if it goes off, the only people that are going to be responsible for the outcome are the taxpayers. We're either having a debt exclusion, we're having layoffs, we're reducing expenses, but we're not going to do it now when the time is right to have the conversation. So we're going to make it more difficult. Let's play it out, because at the end of the day, it comes down to the politics, right? So we're going to wait until after the election to make some difficult decisions, because it's not politically expedient to make the decisions now. That's not what we're elected to do. That's not good government. That's the reality that we're faced with. So, again, I will not support it. This city council with the administration should be down before us talking about how do we balance this budget, because it is not a balanced budget. We do not have a balanced budget. And if people want to believe we have a balanced budget, that's fine. We'll talk about it in November and December when the election's all over, and then we're trying to scramble to figure out how we balance this budget, then okay. But at the end of the day, we've got bigger things, bigger discussions that we need to start talking about. We need strategic planning, long-term planning, and it needs to start now. I yield.
Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Dion. Actually, before I acknowledge you, Counselor in seat 4, Council Vice President.
Actually, I'll yield to Counselor Dion. I just shared my budget book with her.
Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Dion.
Yeah, I just want to point out that in the FY 2020 fourth quarter budget, we did not lose revenue in marijuana. We exceeded our expectation in recreational by $237,866, and we exceeded our expectation in medical by $192,000. So we did not lose revenue in marijuana in 2020, nor did we lose any in 2021. We exceeded both years. With that, I'll yield.
Counselor in seat 4, Council Vice President. You all set?
all.
Any further questions on this transfer?
I'll have.
Counselor in seat 8, Counselor Pereira.
I'll have a question. I know we're talking about the 4.8 million that went in here, but I've been here a while. And I know, I want to say 2013, 14, I don't have those books here, but we infused a lot of money into the budget. I think it was about $2 million we infused from stabilization, or we did it after end of year's transfers, putting money around, because that's what you do at the end of the year. But we put like over $2 million into that. And I can't, I mean, I could go back and look, I can't remember exactly the details, but there was a time that we did it, because stuff happens. And now we're looking at, you know, the COVID, which has really crippled us all. But then, you know, you're looking at expenses and, you know, and what we get in, but look at all the developments that are being done, look at the housing that's coming on board. Granted, you know, we've got to educate the kids that move into those houses, you've got to have, you know, their streets have to be plowed, and there's a lot of expenses that comes with new growth. But a lot of the new growth too, you're getting taxes on, I mean, we raised taxes 2.5%, but people paid more than that. And I talked to Mrs. Sahadi about that, because the last two bills that you get offset, they don't spread it out over the whole 4 times that you pay. So all of a sudden, at the end, you're getting a lot more money that you have to come out with. You know, do I wish that we had a surplus of money and we could do a lot of things in the city? No, and I know that we have to balance things back and forth. But at the same time, you have people who want services, and you don't have the people in these departments to provide the services. You don't have enough people in litter enforcement to make sure that there's no litter in the street and to go out and stop that. The city is devastated with litter. You have panhandlers on the corners, and now I see wherever the panhandlers are, there's a pile of trash, water bottles, this and that. Come on. I mean, you want the city to be clean. You want people to come in. You want to be welcoming. There are a lot of positive things that are going on too. If people don't want to vote for it, don't vote for it. You want to vote for it, vote for it. But sometimes we talk about it. Let's make a decision. Let's go. I agree. It's an election year coming up, and we always get this kind of stuff in these months to an election. We always do. All of you that have been here will know that this is what happens around election time. Let's take a vote. You want it? Fine. You don't? That's fine. With that, I yield.
Council in seat 1, Council Kadim.
Yeah, listen, I think it's disingenuous to start going back to different fiscal years, because here's the problem. We just go back to 2013, 2014, but we don't want to talk about what transpired in 2013, 2014, 2010, 11, 12. They were lean budgets. There weren't raises. There were no new positions. The fire department was decimated. The police department was decimated. We didn't have 27 new positions in here. Okay? And we can talk about it. The problem is we want to do more than talk, but the administration doesn't come down and allow us to have these conversations to actually legitimately take a vote. But if we're going to talk about prior fiscal years, let's be transparent about this. This council, this chamber used to be filled with folks during the budget years. People trying to support education, people trying to support the city side, and there was a battle as to who was going to get funded, where the cuts were going to come from, where the layoffs were going to take place. We haven't had any of those conversations. All we talk about is increasing the budget. At what point do we say we need to stop? We need to figure out exactly what's going on, because we know we don't have the revenues. We're all admitting that we don't have the revenues, but we're going to just continue to say, okay, let's vote on it and let's put the budget forward. Let's provide all these capital items without having a true, legitimate plan on how we're going to make it sustainable. Because all we're going to end up doing is all these people in positions that we add are going to be reduced. They're going to be laid off. They're going to be cut unless we have a way to increase revenue. So just because the administration puts forth requests for us, it's our responsibility to have these conversations to make sure that they make feasible sense. They're fiscally responsible. I haven't seen a plan. I haven't seen any conversations. We haven't talked about it. We're talking about, all I've heard is that there is uncertainty. We still don't know what the revenue numbers are. And I understand the budget is a living document, but I am telling you, every single person that's sitting in these seats would not, if they owned a business, would not be operating their business this way. There is not one single person who can convince me that they would operate a business the way that this city is being operated. And it's nice that there's other communities in the same situation that we're in. But this council, at least some majority of the members, want to have the conversation to say, okay, let's stop, let's take a step back, and maybe it's not the perfect budget. Maybe it's not 27 positions. Maybe it's only 10 positions. I'm not saying we're gonna rectify the problem with a couple of meetings, but we need to have the conversations. We need to have them now. and the administration forced our hands not to have these conversations. That's it. Like, okay, so we didn't take a vote within 45 days or whatever it is because of the charter and this. It's just ridiculous. That didn't stop or preclude the administration from coming down and having conversations with us. So let's take a vote. I'm not supporting it. I won't support it until we have these conversations. I yield.
Anything further? Councilman C4?
Mrs. Sahadi, the 27 positions that are new in this budget, how many of them have been filled?
I don't know. I mean, I could certainly go through the budget. I mean, some are police and fire, so some are in the academy. I don't know. Certainly.
So if we were to-
spoke of one earlier that's in the law department that has been filled. I don't know how many have been filled.
So worst case scenario, if it came down to those 27 positions, there would be layoffs because some of them have been filled.
If we were going to remove all 27 of the previously vacant positions back out of the budget, that is correct.
I yield, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councilman C8?
September 1st, when I was at the briefing with the mayor talking about all these and with the police chief, the new academy is coming in on September the 1st. He's getting a new academy at that point. But some of the people that have applied or that are on the list, he noticed that some of them had already had their training. So if they are high enough on the list and they've had their training, then we don't have to pay to train them. But he's having a hard time even getting police officers. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Anything further? I'm not going to be supporting this as well. I think it's incumbent upon us to see what the future is going to hold for this community, whether we go down this road or not. The infusion of $4.8 million into our revenues, in my opinion, is extremely concerning. That come the holidays, this council may be asked to either go to a debt exclusion or lay people off without any kind of a plan, without any kind of insight or expectation set. And you know, I'm going to continue to say, without planning, nothing is going to get accomplished in this community. And this is a prime example of a what if. What if, maybe, uncertain, way too much there for me. So it's just not good government. Roll call vote, please.
On adoption of the financial order, Councilors Kadim?
No.
Dion?
No.
Kilby?
Yes.
Lullaby LaBeau?
No.
Lee?
No.
Peckham? Pelletier?
Yes.
Pereira?
Yes.
President Ponti?
No. Motion fails.
Motion fails.
Next order of business.
Excuse-
Council C2, your point of
Yeah,
information.
this may sound a little crazy, but based on things that have happened recently, should we also make a motion to reject, just to make sure we're complying with the charter, just in case?
Reject what? The appropriation?
The appropriation requires 2/3 vote to get
Right.
money outside, so
Yeah,
it's
that's
it's
correct.
not similar to the budget.
No?
Sounds
Okay.
similar.
I just want to make sure.
No problem, no problem. Madam Clerk?
Item number 2 is the mayor's communication and request for the appropriation of $50,000 from facilities maintenance expenses to community services demo lien and vacant lot.
Motion to lift from the table?
Motion to lift the item from the
Second.
table made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion to approve?
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Dion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Pereira. Do we have discussion? Councilor in seat 4, Council Vice President.
Thank you. So I spoke to Mrs. Sahadi and the mayor at my councilor's briefing today about this one in particular. This is what was left of the $100,000 line item in facilities maintenance in the budget. If my colleagues remember, there was a lot of discussion on what that line item was for. Since the director is no longer here, no one knew. And then there was correspondence from the person filling in the form of an email saying that she did not know what it was for. We're supposed to be doing, this is me talking now, not her email. We're supposed to be doing zero-based budgeting, so if we don't know what it's for, why are we keeping it in the budget? Her email went on to say that she'd like to keep 25,000 of it, just in case. Still not zero-based budgeting. At the last meeting in July, we were only, what date was our last meeting, Madam Clerk?
July
July
13th.
13.
So we were 13 days into the new budget, and she had already spent 10,000 of it, not having any knowledge of what that was for. So when these came to us last time, we objected to them. I'm going to vote for them tonight, because if we don't vote for them tonight, she's already
Not
spent
gonna
more of
get
it. I was told today by the administration that they're allowing facilities maintenance to keep 50,000, out of the 100,000, just in case. But I went back and looked, because I had this conversation with them today, and they said that it's needed for things that come up. But if you look through the budget, buildings and grounds, 235,000, expenses and materials, parts, sundries. If you go through pages and pages of expenses from facilities maintenance, these things are all built in here. So I don't know why we would be leaving $50,000 in a deposit, in a department, that we don't have a reason for it, just in case things come up. Because if that's the case, then every department should be asking for that. And the other reason is because we've always tried to put more money into these two accounts. I speak to both the building inspector and minimum housing weekly, sometimes daily, about properties all around the city. I wanted to see all of the 100,000 go to that. When she used 10, I asked for the 90,000. That didn't happen. So now we're down to 50 and keeping 50. Like I said, I'm going to vote yes for this, but I'm not agreeing with the other 50 remaining in facilities maintenance to be used on whatever. That's not fair to any other department, and it's not zero-based budgeting. With that, I yield.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilor in seat 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just along the lines, I'll support this. I thought we tabled it to try to get additional monies put into these accounts, but yet again, the administration wants to talk about us going before him, having conversations, putting in requests, and then he would consider our requests. To me, this is a no-brainer. We want to talk about clean streets. We want to talk about clean properties. We're looking to make sure that there's appropriate funding set aside for the inspector's office to deal with this. So I will support it as well. But again, this is just another example how we as a council put forth a recommendation to assist the administration, quite frankly, to make sure that the city looks clean. And all of a sudden, we're going to be told that the city council doesn't care. What are you doing? You're not showing up for neighborhood cleanups and all this other stuff. But again, we're trying to put money behind a department to make sure that they have the proper resources to go out and address these blighted and vacant properties. With that, I'll be supporting it. But I'd also like to request, through you, Mr. President, I'm just curious to see from the administration if there's any discussion, action plans, or anything like that with all the vacant school buildings that have been sold off to individuals. There's a lot of these school buildings that have been sold, nothing's being done. So I'm just curious if there's any discussions taking place, and if we could get that some type of correspondence coming back from the administration with regards to that within the next couple of weeks. I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilor in seat 8. Councilor Pereira.
Yeah, there were some discussions about that. I asked that during the budget the briefing that we had this week, that there was some information on that relative to Lincoln School and the Sylvia School. I'm also looking at Duval School, because some of the money to purchase Duval School, $4,000, came from snow owl money. So I think we have to look at that as well. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Motion to approve has been made and seconded. Councilor in seat 4.
I'm sorry. Through you, Mr. President, to Council in seat 8, what was the response given about the
Well-
Lincoln School and the Sylvia School?
Well, I think that you should go to a briefing and find
I
out.
went to a
I'm not
briefing
going to go
today,
on and
Counselor.
on with whatever it was, but
She was
I
at the
told
briefing.
him.
She was at the briefing this afternoon.
You said
but
you
she
had-
wasn't at
did
yours.
Did you
said you
ask
had-
about that? I asked about that.
So
No,
she
I didn't,
wasn't
but
at
you
your.
said you asked about it. Can you tell us
I
what
Counselor,
the
was,
answer
and what
was?
he's
Counselor.
doing, there is a plan to look at getting those schools back.
That's all she wanted to
They're
know.
working on that plan. Thank you.
That's all
I
the Council
yield.
Vice President wanted to know. Not all of us go to the same briefings, so Council Vice
I
President
asked
was
those-
there today.
That's why I
She-
like those briefings, because I get to
Right,
ask
but you got to understand, Councilor.
questions. I mean, I
You gotta
have lists of questions that I ask when I go.
Counselor, you got to understand, not everybody
I'm
goes to.
I have the floor, and I'm
No,
telling
you don't have the
you my
floor.
answer.
No, you don't have the floor.
I'm sorry, Council President, just to be clear, now not only do we have to go to the briefings, but we have to come with a list of questions.
Right.
And if another counselor asks questions that we didn't think to ask at our specific briefing, we're just going to keep that information to
It's-
ourselves?
yeah.
Is that what's happening here?
That's what we're doing, I
That's
guess.
great, thank you,
Yeah.
I yield.
Not
No,
everybody-
that's not what's happening. Do
Counselor.
I have the floor? That's not what's happening.
Counselor, you don't have
What
the
I
floor.
said was,
Counselor, you don't have the floor.
I
Listen.
don't have the floor?
No, you
Okay.
don't. So, Counselor.
I'll raise my hand.
Okay, and then I'll
Let's get the
acknowledge
floor.
you. Okay.
Okay.
Listen, not everybody goes to your budget, your meetings. I mean, it's the reality. Council Vice President was at a meeting this afternoon that you weren't at. So if she's not in your meeting, she should be able to ask the question.
And what I'm saying, do I have the floor?
Now you do, yes.
Now I have the floor. You're
Yes.
not going to interrupt me now.
No, I'm
I
not. You have the floor.
I have the floor.
You can go
Okay.
on.
When I asked the mayor about some of these vacant schools, and that things needed to be done. And he said that the law department was talking to the owners of 2 of the schools, and they were coming up with a plan to look at doing something to get those schools back. So what exactly is happening, I don't know, and that's what I said, that they're looking into a plan to bring those back. And I said that I felt they should also look at the Duval, because I live in that area, and I've been getting numbers of calls from people around that school saying that they're not doing anything with the school. And if you watched or heard or read the trial that went on, a $4,000 check from Snowall was given to the Flint Neighborhood Association to purchase the school. So they didn't even have money to buy the school, so where is the money to repair the school? I asked at a Flint neighborhood meeting, there's an architect that was gonna look at it. Well, there has been an architect that's looked at it, but the architect isn't gonna give his plans because he hasn't been paid yet. So that's where it stands. And with that, I yield.
And all the counselor wanted to know was a follow-up, and it was unnecessary for you, counselor, to have to call her and say you should go to
Mr.
the
President,
meeting.
you don't.
yielded the floor.
Mr.
You
President,
yielded the
you
floor.
don't discipline me.
Counselor,
Get
I'm
over
not-
it.
Counselor, I'm not disciplining you. I'm advising you of the way you have to treat a colleague of yours.
Oh,
She was at a
thank you.
briefing that you weren't at, and she asked a simple follow-up question. It was unnecessary for the theatrics.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next, where are we at, Madam Clerk? Because now we're talking about schools and all this other stuff.
We're at item number 2, the
Motion to
transfer of $50,000 from facilities and maintenance
I'm sick of it too,
to
Counselor.
community services.
I'm sick of it too, Counselor. You don't need to speak under your voice about everything you're sick of. We're sick of it too. And the frustration
am.
is pretty clear right here.
I can feel it.
Good.
I
We all
can
do.
feel it.
Motion to adopt has been made and
I will not ask any
seconded.
more questions, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adopt has been made and, motion to adopt has been made and seconded. Hearing no further discussions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item number 3 is the mayor's communication and an order appropriating $360,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 to financial services expenses account.
Motion to lift the item from the table would be appropriate.
Motion so made, Mr.
Motion to lift the item from the table has
Second.
been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Pereira. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Your motion?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by
Second.
Councilor Pereira. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Councilor in seat. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
On adoption of the appropriation order, Councilors Kadim,
No.
Dion,
No.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lullaby LeBeau,
No.
Lee,
Yes.
Peckham, Pelletier,
Yes.
Pereira,
Yes.
President Ponti.
No.
The motion fails.
I'm sorry.
What is it? What's the vote?
4-4.
4.
Sorry.
Next order of business.
Item number 4 is the mayor's request for the Quarter 4 budget report to be submitted for review at this very meeting.
Motion to adopt.
Motion
Lift
to
one.
lift the item from the table would be appropriate.
Second.
Made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Vice President. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion. What's the motion? Is there a motion to adopt, motion to approve?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been
Second.
made
The
by
motion
Councilor
leads to
Kilby,
withdraw.
seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item number 6 is the mayor's communication and an order appropriating $389,200 from the general fund stabilization to police salaries and community maintenance salaries.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to,
Mr. President, would it
Your
make
point
more
of
sense to take the contract out of order, which is, I think, I mean, before we provide the funding, I think we should vote on. the-
item 12?
Is it 12?
Let me see.
12 and
13. 13.
11 and 12 and
11.
13.
Madam Clerk, the correct number here, I don't, my glasses here. Mayor, in a memorandum of agreement with the,
12 and 13 is the superior officers.
what would be the correct one that we have in front of us here?
I know, I know it's semantics, but I think we should approve the contract first before we do.
Motion to take item 12 out of order would be appropriate.
Motion
No,
so made.
that's environmental.
It's 11.
13.
My apologies, 13.
I mean, I guess can we
Yep.
take 11, 12, and 13? out
Let's
of
do
order?
11, 12, and 13. We could do. Motion to take items 11 out of order has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by
Second.
Counselor Dion. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item number 11 is the memorandum of agreement for the Teamsters.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve has been made by Counselor Kadim, seconded by
Second.
Counselor Kilby. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion to take item 12 out of order would be appropriate. Made by Counselor Kadim, seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve has been
Second.
made by Counselor Kadim, seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And just for a point of information, that was the mayor and the memorandum of agreement between the Fall River Environmental Police, MCOP, Local 491, and the City of Fall River. Motion to take items 13 out of order.
So moved.
Made by Counselor Kadim, seconded by Counselor Kilby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt the mayor and the memorandum of agreement between the Fall River Police Superiors Officers Association, Mass Coalition of Police, Local 1844, and the City of Fall River has been made by Counselor Kadim, seconded by Counselor
Second.
Kilby. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Sure. Back at item number 6, with the mayor's request for the appropriation of $389,200 from the general fund stabilization, with $313,400 to police salaries and $75,800 to community maintenance salaries.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt has been made by Counselor Kadim,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Kilby. Discussion. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Dion.
Yeah, the only issue I have is, as I said earlier, we have monies in the 2022 budget, which was put aside to settle contracts. Even though it was stated tonight it's for future contracts, I don't think taking one-time funds from two different pots is the way to go about this. Since it was already set aside in the 2022 budget, I think that money should be utilized, and only the difference have to come from another source. And with that, I yield.
Any further discussion on the adoption? Hearing none. All those in favor? Actually, roll call vote, please. Item 6.
On adoption of the financial order, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Dion,
No.
Kilby,
Yes.
La Liberty LeBeau,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peckham, Pelletier,
Yes.
Pereira,
Yes.
and President Ponti.
Yes.
Item number 7 is a communication from the mayor and orders for the acceptance, to allow the acceptance and expenditure of grants. The first one is for Mass Call 3 in the amount of $250,000.
Want to do them separately, Madam Clerk?
We have separate orders for each.
Okay, let's do one at a time. Mass Call 3 for $250,000. Do we have a motion?
Motion to accept.
Motion to adopt has been made by Counselor Kilby. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Discussion. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Dion.
Yeah, I think we've already been down this road once, and I don't want to keep going down the road. This is to accept the grant and expend the monies. I think it should be two separate issues. I have no problem with accepting grants. We have to accept grants. I am not going to vote to accept a grant and expend it in the same vote. I think it should be done separately, and with that, I yield.
Thank you. Counselor in seat 4, Counselor 5, Counselor Lee.
Just because of all the back and forth on accepting and expending being so separate from each other, but yet it seems to be all together when we do this. Can we get a summary, at least, of where this money is being expended? Is there an opportunity to get that? Or is that just in our,
It's in the
it's just in the packets, but is there is there anyone from these agencies that we can talk to about it, or no?
I don't think they're not
No.
here, Counselor.
Motion to refer to finance?
Motion to refer the item to finance. The current order before us, Mass Call 3, has been made by Counselor Kadim. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Dion. Discussion on the referral. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We have the order for the acceptance and the expenditure of the grant in the amount of $50,000 for Mass in Motion.
Is there a motion? Motion to adopt or refer? Did I hear something? Is there a motion to adopt or refer?
Motion to refer to finance?
Motion to refer to finance has been made
Second.
by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We have the order to accept and expend a grant in the amount of $42,950 for Mass Trails.
Motion to refer to finance?
Motion to refer to
Second.
finance made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Dion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We have the order to accept and expend $1,056,000 for Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Program.
Motion to refer to finance?
Motion to
Second.
refer to finance made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Council Vice President. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I guess the ayes have it.
And lastly, the order to accept and expend a grant in the amount of $30,000 for the sex offender address verification.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kilby. Do we got a second? Seconded by Councilor Pereira. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
On adoption of the order, Councilors Kadim,
No.
Dion,
No.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lullaby LeBeau,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peckham, Pelletier,
Yes.
Pereira,
Yes.
President Ponti.
No.
Motion carried.
Motion carries.
Item number 7 is the mayor's
8.
request, Item number 8 is the mayor's request for the termination of the appointment of Mackenzie Sylvia as a constable in the city of Fall River.
Motion to accept the termination would be appropriate,
Motion to accept.
Second.
if that's the need. Motion to accept the termination has been made by Councilor Lee, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Do we have discussion on this item? Councilor in seat 5, Councilor Lee.
I'll yield to.
Councilor in seat 2,
to-
Councilor Dion.
Yeah, my only concern is we just got a request to terminate an appointment with no explanation. There's no, excuse me?
There is an explanation. It was included in the packet.
I didn't see
The
it.
mayor received a request from the
of police.
chief of police. There is a case that he has brought to the mayor's attention, and he considers it a very serious matter, and he is asking that this person lose their ability to remain a constable in the city.
It's a case that's been settled, not settled. I guess I was just looking for some little background information on it, that's all.
I believe the mayor's letter is in the packet. I can certainly read it if you'd like me to.
Oh, that's okay. I'll look. I don't remember
Do
seeing
you
it.
yield, Councilor?
I yield.
Councilor in seat 1?
No, so I agree with Councilor in C2. I think, and I agree there's a letter in there, and the police chief is requesting that we not recommend the termination, but when considering, I mean, the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 91 states that the mayor may, with the consent of the Board of Aldermen, remove a constable from office for gross misconduct. I think what Councilor in C2 and what I guess I would be looking for is to see what has been determined as gross conduct, other than the recommendation obviously coming from the police chief that there is gross conduct, but I think there's got to be some type of checks and balance in terms of what is that gross conduct, other than stating that he's been deemed a suitable person, I'm sorry, Mr. Silva not being deemed a suitable person to be licensed constable in the city. So it's just vague. I mean, we don't know what the reason is.
I don't have any further updates on that either.
Thank you for clarifying.
All right, I yield.
Councilor in seat 4, Council Vice President.
So I did ask this question at my mayor's briefing today, and the mayor knows what it was, but he would not share the information.
Fair enough.
So, I'm
Do you have
sorry.
a point of information, Councilor in seat 1?
I just don't understand if the city council has to vote on something and then you've got a council asking for a reason as to why we're asked to vote to, I guess, take
Terminate.
away the person's right. I mean, when does common sense prevail? Like, when do we get the information to make educated decisions? Or does common sense not prevail? Right, because I think through you, Mr. President, to Councilman seat 4, you asked the question and he said he would not share it?
Yeah, he said.
And it could be a
wasn't gonna
legitimate,
say.
and it could be a legitimate reason, but how do we know that if we're not told?
I don't know if it's confidential. I don't know if it falls under some category. I don't know. I didn't push the issue.
I don't know either.
Maybe somebody else went to a briefing and asked.
I have no.
But we just vote to reject somebody's or remove somebody's right to be a constable? Is it,
We can vote against it.
I guess we can, but I mean.
Can we table it?
You can.
Motion to table.
Motion to table has been made by, before a motion to table, Councilman seat 7, Council Pelletier.
I know the situation very well. I know the individual, and I know what he has done. And the chief is very well, knows what he's done, and you just can't give him the license. I mean, I don't want to get into details.
Yep.
If the chief wants to tell you what it is, all well and good. He had called me up a couple of times about the situation. I know what it is, but I'm not allowed to say it on open meeting. So I would suggest, instead of tabling it, that you would call the chief and he'd give you more information. Is he justified? Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So you want to table it, you want to talk to him, whatever the case may be. But, and they're having trouble. They sent a few letters to him and he's not responding to it. So I don't know what comes of that. I don't know if they pick him up, don't pick him up. But the chief is well aware of what's going on, and it's the right thing to do from the chief. With that, I yield.
Councilman seat 4, Council Lee.
Yeah,
5, Council Lee.
You know, Chief Cardoza hasn't done anything that I can see to steer us in the wrong direction. We could trust his word, you know, on this and just go forward. But I think, you know, I think that if we vote yes or no on something, we should have all the details. So I think tabling it just gives us an opportunity, even if we have to have a private discussion with him through an executive type session. I think it's just the best way to be thorough on this rather than to kind of just rubber stamp it. So that I yield.
Councilman seat 1, Councilor Kadim.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, this isn't, I'm not questioning whether the chief is legitimate, but there are several parties in play. The chief's recommendation, the mayor submits a recommendation to the city council, but the city council, some members have, obviously, are privy to the information. Other councilors have not been shared the information, so I don't know how you can ask a city councilor or a city council member to vote on something without providing the information. I guess that's the crux of it. I mean, what happens if we disagree and we don't feel that it warrants, and I'm not suggesting that it doesn't warrant it, but what happens if it doesn't warrant or rise to the level that we feel we should be revoking somebody's ability to be a constable? I don't even know what the issue is, so I can't even begin to contemplate and say, yes, I agree with that, or no, I don't agree with it. I mean, listen, we ran into situations before with prior administrations and constable licenses and it coming down to politics, right? So we had an individual who lost their constable license because they supported somebody else. Not saying that this is a similar situation, but we need to know that, because if we took that vote and then somebody comes down at citizen input and says, you folks revoked my license because I'm supporting somebody else, then we'd all have egg on our face. I just think when something is put before us, we should be presented with all the information. I shouldn't have to call and you know, find out, you know, why are we doing X, Y, and Z. I mean, we've got, listen, the clerks printed all this. This is like a ream of paper. There's like 500 pages. But in this 500 pages, for 9 counselors, I don't have a reason as to why I've got to revoke somebody's constable license. Right? So we provide some information for some items, but then other items we get nothing. With that, I yield.
Councilor in seat 3, Councilor Kilby.
I called, well, I don't want to offend anybody here, but when's the last time individuals on this council have called the mayor? Okay? I myself got this agenda on Friday, and this is one of the questions I had for him in terms of why. He didn't get into specifics, which he couldn't. He was advised by Corporation Counsel not to. But to Councilor Pelletier's point, it's a serious issue. And that's all I need to know. I made the call, and I asked the question, why? He told me. I'm content with that. And that's it. I mean, I myself talk to the mayor maybe 3 or 4 times a week about issues involving the city, issues involving communication I'm getting from, constituents. And maybe, and with all due respect to everyone here, maybe that's what's lacking. Maybe, governing is a two-way street. Communication is very important. And I think maybe at times some of us have to communicate more. I know, and I'm not, again, I just don't want to go on and ramble here, but just call. I know when I call him, he picks up the phone. 9 out of 10 times he picks up his cell phone. And I value that relationship as a city councilor and the mayor. It makes me more effective as an elected official. I communicate with him almost every other day. So this is not complicated. It's a two-way street. So I yield.
Councilor in seat 5, Councilor Lee.
If it's put on the agenda and it's requested by the mayor to the city council, why is it our responsibility to try to get the detail of this?
I'll answer the question. Some things are confidential.
All right,
Some things
but-
can't be public.
But if he,
And especially
so
something
why
like
doesn't
this.
he,
It can't
why
be in a
doesn't,
packet
why doesn't
why
he,
this guy is
why
being
doesn't he,
terminated.
why doesn't
We
he,
would get sued.
why doesn't he reach out to the council to let us know what the situation is?
Councilor in seat 5 has the floor.
Why doesn't he reach out to the council to let us know what the situation is? I don't understand that. We're completely in the dark on
One
it.
second, one second.
Some of us are completely in the dark on it, and some of us are not. How is that? How is that expected?
1 second,
How
Councilor.
is that expected? I don't have,
One second.
how is that expected of us? If some of us are in the dark and some of us are not, why would it be expected of us to say yes to this?
I have no problem with tabling this matter until,
Okay.
okay? I have no problem with doing that. But
Okay.
my point is, communication is a two-way street, especially what we went through under Jazel Carrere. Okay? That's my opinion. I understand Council Kadeen's points with all the financial matters, okay? But it's a two-way street.
Even if I call,
He-
see, even if I called him, I have flaw, right? Even if I called him and he gave me this secret squirrel information, that's still, to me, not the way it's supposed to go. If I'm requested, if something is requested of me, where's the courtesy to contact me and let me know what's going on so that way I'm informed on what I'm voting on? I just don't understand how that is even professional. How is that even, I don't even understand how that's even professional.
1 second, Councilor.
Serious, and I'm being dead serious. I don't see that. So I yield the floor.
One more.
Okay.
Councilor Kilby. Thank you, Councilor
I'm
Lee.
sorry.
We're just trying to avoid the back and
I've
forth.
served like Council Pereira and Council Kadeen and Councilor Pereira for a long time. I was first elected when Ed Lambert was mayor. So I have the same type of relationship with communicating with the mayor from Ed Lambert all the way through to the present mayor. It's important. And if you're not getting if anyone's not getting their answers to all their questions, make a call. That's my point. Just make a call. I yield. Thank you, Mr. President, for your patience with me tonight.
Councilor in seat 4, Council Vice President.
So I just wanted to clarify.
Them twice, then me. They've already spoken
I don't-
twice,
I
I
don't
haven't
believe
had
she
once.
spoke. Did you speak on this issue, Councilor?
I just made a point that I was at the meeting today.
Sure.
I just wanted to clarify through you, Mr. President, to Councilor in seat 3. When Councilor in seat 3 called and asked, did he tell him? He said he told him what it was?
I'm not, I can't. I was informed.
No, I'm not asking you to say, I'm just
Okay.
saying.
No, I was informed in the general nature of what this is about,
So
and
to
I'm
that,
content with that explanation.
so to that point, the argument is call him and ask if you have a question, because that's what he did, and he got his information. So I sat in a meeting and asked the question, and I didn't get the information.
This is like a
That's all.
dysfunctional
Thank you.
family.
Thank you,
right?
Counselor.
This is what this is
Counselor.
like.
Thank you, Counselor. You still have the floor.
I understand what Counselor in C3 is saying. I'm saying I did that. I went in person. I didn't call, I went in person. So the logic is a little bit flawed there. I didn't push the issue. I figured maybe it was confidential, but it is what it is. I yield.
Counselor in seat 8, Counselor Pereira.
Well, I received my agenda, and when I saw this, I was concerned. And I called the chief. I didn't talk to the mayor about this. I called the chief. And because it was a human resource kind of issue that he really couldn't divulge, but it was serious enough for him to request to the mayor that this individual be terminated. And to be honest with you, we all voted for the chief of police. I have the utmost respect for the chief of police. And if chief of police tells me that it was his recommendation that the individual be terminated because of a serious nature, then I'm gonna go with that. Because I have to believe him that there is something very serious to request that someone be terminated. But my understanding was because it's something difficult, special, extraordinary, that he couldn't share exact details, because if he shared exact details or wrote something to 9 of us here and gave specifics on what it was, and if that paper got out to anybody else, then there could be a potential issue. So that's the feeling that I got. But what he said was it was serious enough for him to request that the mayor would terminate the individual. And in the Mass General Law, it says that the mayor has the ability to do
Motion to
that.
table?
So with that, I yield.
Counselor in seat 7, Counselor Pelletier.
I can share maybe just a little bit. It's an ongoing investigation from the Fall River PD, the state police, and the ATF. That's what's going on. So, I mean, he don't want to disclose anything, but that's the nature of it, and he's trying to resolve it. So, I mean, if you want to table it till the case is over, so be it, I think for now. And he's not cooperating, as far as I know. Allison, you sent 1 or 2 notices to him?
I've, typically when we receive such requests like this from the police chief, in conjunction with the mayor, my office will send a letter to the constable requesting that they voluntarily resign to avoid anything further. 9 out of 10 times, they either resign or their case has been cleared and everything is cleared and they remain as a constable. In this case, he didn't respond to the notice. I also notified him that this was on the agenda this evening. He has signed for both letters that I sent him certified. He's not here. But he has been notified of this and he does not respond to anything.
And if my colleagues were just, saying what I said, if you think it's good, you want to table it, so be it. But if you got 3 agencies that are checking this out, there's a problem. With that, I yield.
Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Dion.
So obviously, we know more now than we knew before. However, and obviously, it's an ongoing situation. So supposedly, we live in a country where you're innocent till proven guilty. And I'm not saying this isn't going to result in them finding him responsible for what they're investigating. I don't know how to term it. So I would have been perfectly comfortable with, can we take away his authority to perform his job function until the case is resolved? Absolutely not a problem. Or pending the result of the investigation, if it's proven to be what they think, automatic termination at that point. I think my whole thing was, again, okay, so we have this information, still have no clue what this individual supposedly did, and that's all well and good, I suppose. So, I get what you're saying. I get the chief is the chief, that, there's agencies involved. Obviously, it's not something good. He's not responding for a reason. I just, like to see, I don't know.
Madam-
Without a conclusion, it just makes it a little difficult. There should be other options, like I say. So you don't have the ability to perform your job until the conclusion, and if the conclusion is what they think it's going to be, it's automatic termination. It doesn't even need to come back to the council because you've already voted in that way. And with that, I yield.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you read the letter from the chief, please?
Yes.
Because
I
apparently it's not
apologize.
in our packets.
I thought this letter was in your packet, but apparently it is not in your packet. So, there is a letter from Lieutenant Gregory Wiley, to the police chief, saying the Fall River Police Department, along with Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives Bureau, are conducting an investigation into Mackenzie Sylvia in regards to several firearms belonging to Mr. Sylvia being reported missing and/or stolen. Mr. Sylvia, who is a constable in the city of Fall River, has since had his license to carry a firearm suspended due to his lack of cooperation into this investigation. I'm respectfully requesting that Mr. Sylvia's constable license be reviewed and suspended until the completion of the investigation. The police chief further submitted a note at the bottom of this letter to the mayor, saying Mr. Sylvia has not turned in his license to carry as required. This is in addition to not cooperating in a very serious matter. Therefore, I recommend he lose the ability to remain a constable.
Thank
I
you.
should also add that the constable appointment is only valid through February of next year. So it's really only, it's,
Okay, thank
that's
you.
the
And
remainder
that,
of
and
the
that is,
appointment.
and that is a huge difference versus what we had, which was absolutely
I
nothing.
assumed both pieces were in your packet.
Right.
And I'm just finding it's not on there. So
Okay,
I
thank you.
apologize.
And that is a horse of a different color, and I appreciate it, and with that, I yield.
Councilor in seat 1, Councilor Kadim.
No, with that information, I'm good. I just got to be honest, though. The conversation that we just transpired about, councilors having to call the administration, do this, and that, just because a department head put something before us that we're supposed to approve it. Listen, it's called trust with verification, right? Ronald Reagan said it in the 80s, okay? I mean, yes, so you have a department head coming back, but how do we know what gross misconduct is? Like, so to, if councilors want to vote that way and just rubber stamp, that's fine, but don't throw it on other councilors to start rubber stamping. That's the frustrating piece. And in terms of the communication, the breakdown in this functionality started with the man in the corner office on the 6th floor. He's the one that got us to this point, not any of us. We all were going to briefings. We were all calling the mayor's office. To be quite honest, you know how many times the mayor's shown up to my house to have conversations with me on a Saturday and a Sunday? I've opened the door and I've had conversations with him, so I don't need to continue to go down this road. The dysfunctionality starts with him. I said it before and I'll say it again and I'll reiterate it. You can say what you want about Jazel Correa. There was a different trust factor. There is a breakdown in trust with this administration, and not because it's a political season. We talk about the gotcha games and all this other stuff, and you can go back. He's been recorded. Everything is completely different. He's the one that's going out to the community, saying that he only supports one counselor and all this other stuff, and meanwhile the rest of the counselors don't even exist. He's telling people that the counselors took specific votes and this is what we're doing, and when we correct him, he still says, I don't care, that's what I'm telling people. And if you don't believe it, folks have had the conversations with him, that's what's going on. So that's where the trust issues come. And this is just a clear indication. I mean, nobody's looking to be dysfunctional. We're trying to, you talk about communication, we're trying to get him to the table to communicate with us. Right? I mean, how many times did we ask him to come back down and communicate with us? So, with that, based on the information that's been provided by the clerk, I'll be supporting it.
Councilor in seat 5, Councilor Lee.
I go to the meetings when I'm able to schedule them. I talk to people whenever they talk to me. This was not about a lack of communication, it was a lack of information. I think that's what this was about. And, thank you, Allison, for reading it off, because that clarifies, the whole thing for me. That's the element that we were looking for. But just to vote on something and not have any information at all doesn't make any sense. I mean, we get berated. The city council has been berated for decades because of voting that way for so long. I mean, we've had, remember that easement situation? My goodness, like, there's so many situations we can go down the line with, so we just wanted to make sure we had the right information, that's all that was. To be talked down to about, we don't do this and we don't do that, is ridiculous. It's just unnecessary, because we did have one person make the phone call, and they didn't get the same information that other people did. So that's just inconsistency on the person responsible for not distributing the information correctly. So with that, I yield.
Motion to terminate the appointment has been made by Counselor Kadeem, seconded by Counselor Lee. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
That should have been simple.
Item number 9 is the mayor's communication and an order accepting the gift of the Vietnam Memorial Wall.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made by Counselor Pereira, seconded by Counselor Kilby. Discussion. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Dion.
Yeah, I'm a little confused on this. Isn't the fact that it's on city property, doesn't that essentially make the wall city property? If I purchase a bench and put it in the city park, isn't it city property? It's not my property sitting in a city park. Because I know that at park board meetings in the past, when this whole and I think maybe you might be best to answer the question, I don't know. I know there were discussions when they went for approval before the park board to put the monument in the park. There was a discussion on who was going to be responsible for maintenance, who was going to be responsible for the lighting, to pay to replace lighting, et cetera, and the committee took the responsibility of that. But my understanding, or my assumption, and maybe it's an incorrect assumption, is with the park board giving permission for the wall to be placed there, because it's on city property, it technically is already city property. Just your committee took on the financial responsibilities moving forward. Am I at all correct on any of that?
Counselor in seat 8, Counselor Pereira.
You're correct on some and incorrect on others. Yes, it is located in a park. However, the attorneys that work on this said that we needed to have documentation that we have completed it and we have turned it over to the city. However, the committee will still maintain the lighting and, the care of the wall, the washing of the wall, repairs of any. As a matter of fact, on 9/11, they're having a car show at Bristol Community College, and that's a fundraiser for the wall committee, because to continue to have money to do the things that they need to do. But it was a legal question that came up at a meeting, and legally, we needed to gift it to the city, to give it back to the city.
Okay, so basically
And
it's a
that's what we're doing.
technicality.
It's a technicality. We're also looking at getting that whole area, getting a federal designation. And to say, the city has this monument, and this monument, and this monument, then it gives us more. Gives us more of a shot in the arm to get the federal designation.
Okay,
But,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
With that, I yield.
Counselor in seat 4, Counselor Vice President.
Just through you, Mr. President, Counselor seat 8. Counselor, is the care of the wall, does it have a timeline on it? Or is it always?
A what?
Does it have a timeline on it that the committee's going to care for the wall? And then
No.
It's always?
Indefinite.
I yield.
Motion to accept the gift has been made and seconded, Madam Clerk, correct?
Yes.
Motion to accept has been let me try that again. Motion to accept the gift has been made and seconded. Hearing no further discussions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next order of business,
Item number 14 is a communication from the mayor in an order to execute the administrative order of consent with the Environmental Protection Agency for the CSO project, CSO court order.
Motion to refer to finance.
Thank you. Yeah,
Motion to
please.
refer to finance. We need some clarification on this before we adopt it. Has been made by Counselor Kilby.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Dion. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 15 is a communication from the mayor in an order to execute an amendment to the combined sewer overflow federal court order.
Same motion, please.
Motion to refer to finance.
Motion to refer to finance has been made by Counselor Pereira, seconded by Counselor Kilby. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 16 is the mayor's proposal for the FY22 water and sewer rates.
Motion to refer to ordinance
Let's wait.
has been made by Councilor Pelletier.
Roll call.
Is there a second to the motion to refer the item to ordinance?
Which one is that? I'm sorry.
This is item 16, the water and sewer rates. Is there a second to the motion to refer to
Second.
ordinance? Seconded by Councilor Pereira to refer to ordinance. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call.
On referral to the ordinance committee, Councilors Kadim,
No.
Dion,
No.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lullaby LeBeau,
Yes.
Lee,
No.
Peckham, Pelletier,
Yes.
Pereira,
Yes.
and President Ponti.
Yes.
What's the score?
The motion carries. 5
Motion
yeas,
carries.
3 nays.
But, could I, Mr. President?
Yep, Councilor?
I know that this is going back to ordinance, but honestly, we got these in April. It went to ordinance, was tabled. Then it went to ordinance, it wasn't lifted from the table. Then it went to ordinance, it was tabled again. Then it went to ordinance, it was given leave to withdraw. Now, all of a sudden, it's back here again. We need to take a vote on this, so that if it goes to ordinance and, it's tabled or this, we all have to vote on this, whether we want to increase water and sewer rates or we don't. But you got to take a vote on it. So, I don't particularly want to increase water and sewer. I have my own rationale of why I don't think that I want to do that. But I know that from here, it's supposed to go to ordinance, but I would have rather have had the vote tonight, although we are missing a member and it could be a 4-4 vote, wouldn't go anywhere. So that's why I said let it go to ordinance. But that's my feelings on that. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Next order of business.
We have the recommendations from the Traffic Commission to amend traffic ordinances.
Motion to refer to ordinance has been made by
So moved.
Councilor Kadim, seconded by
Second.
Councilor Dion. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We have the Planning Board recommending approval of a request to post and maintain a plaque on city-owned property. This is in memory of the late Roy Rogers. The
Motion
Planning
to
Board
approve.
did recommend 2 conditions. So is it the council's wish to approve
Motion to
with
approve.
those conditions?
Motion to accept the recommendation and approve the petition has been made by Councilor Lee. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Pereira. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 19 is the designation of polling places for the municipal election and the preliminary election.
Motion to adopt, made by Councilor Lee,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 20 is the planning board's recommending acceptance of Detroit Street from Stevens to Omaha Street.
To adopt?
Motion to adopt has been made, motion to adopt the orders for plans has been made by Councilor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Committee on Public Works and Transportation, at a meeting held on July 20th, voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying resolution be granted leave to withdraw. This resolution related to the safety hazard created by limited lighting on public streets.
Motion to give the item leave to withdraw has been made by Councilor Dion, seconded by
Second.
Councilor Pelletier. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Hello.
Oh, sorry, Councilor in seat 7, Councilor Pelletier. Your point of information?
No, well, I just want to say that Councilor Pereira, myself, we worked on this, and Chris Gallagher got the companies to come in and repair all the lights at no cost to the city of Fall River. And we don't usually get the good end of the bargain. The job is completely done, and that's the way to go, give leave to withdraw. But sometimes you win. This is one that you win because you looked at it, you chased it down. We done the right thing, we done the right thing, and we all done the right thing. And we got it fixed, so that's a good thing. Should be easy like that all the time.
I agree.
I yield.
Thank you, Councilor. Next order of business.
Committee on Public Works and Transportation, at a meeting held on July 20th, voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying order be adopted. This is the curb removal at 4621 North Main Street for Kristen Bagnell.
Is there a
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kadim. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kilby. Is there discussion? Roll call. This is 461 North Main Street,
4621 North.
4621 North Main Street.
On adoption of the order, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Dion,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lullaby LeBeau,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peckham, Pelletier,
Yes.
Pereira,
Yes.
President Ponti.
Yes.
Committee on Public Works and Transportation, at a meeting held on July 20th, voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying order be adopted. This is also a curb removal for Jordan Camara at 91 Pelham Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Committee on Public Works and Transportation, at a meeting held on July 20th, voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying order be adopted. It's a curb removal for Matthew Medeiros at 33-35 Ward Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has
Second.
been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 25 is the final report for the acceptance of Chestnut Hill Drive from North Main Street to a dead end.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt
Second.
has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
I have the final report regarding the acceptance of Bell Street from Corbett to Kennedy Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Committee on Public Safety, at a meeting held on July 26th, voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying resolution be granted leave to withdraw, with Councilor LeBeau absent and not voting. This was a resolution regarding safety concerns at the intersection of North Main and Weaver Street.
Motion grant leave to withdraw.
Motion to give the item leave to withdraw has been made by Councilor Kadim,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Committee on Public Safety, at a meeting held on July 26th, voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying resolution be granted leave to withdraw. This was the discussion of excessive speed of vehicles and public safety hazards on North Main Street.
Motion to give the item leave to withdraw
So
has been
moved.
made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Committee on Ordinances and Legislation, at a meeting held on July 26th, voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinance, accompanied by an emergency preamble, be passed through first reading, second reading, passed to be enrolled, and passed to be ordained with Councilor Lee absent. This is
Motion
a
for
handicap
emergency.
parking.
Motion
to
for
ex-
emergency preamble.
Motion for
Second.
the emergency preamble has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Dion.
Council
Discussion, Councilor in
Am
seat
I on
7.
that list?
4.
Handicap parking and all that?
I don't know, do you want me to look?
Well, no, I put in for one, but I'm not gonna, I
There
don't know
is
if I
one
got it,
on
or is that,
Peckham
am I-
Street.
I'll abstain, what's that?
There is one on Peckham Street.
There's one on Peckham Street.
Oh, that's me, so I'm gonna
Okay, so
abstain.
abstain
I'm
from the vote.
assuming that that's you.
Safe to say, it's abstain.
Thank you.
Motion to accept the emergency preamble has been made by Councilor Kadim,
Yes, it is.
seconded by Councilor Dion. Roll call on the emergency preamble.
On adoption of the preamble, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Dion,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lullaby LeBeau,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peckham, Pelletier,
Abstain.
Pereira,
Yes.
and President Ponti.
Yes. Motion to accept pass through all readings
Motion to pass through all readings.
has been made by Councilor
Second.
Kadim, seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion. Roll call on passing through all readings.
Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Dion,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lullaby LeBeau,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peckham, Pelletier,
Abstain.
Pereira,
Yes.
and President Ponti.
Yes.
Committee on Ordinances and Legislation, at a meeting held on July 26th, voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading with Councilor Lee absent and not
Motion to
voting.
pass through first reading.
Motion to pass through first reading made by Councilor Kadim,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Whereas residents of the city of Fall River voted to adopt the Community Preservation Act in 2012, and whereas we are approaching the 10-year anniversary of its adoption, and whereas the CPA adds a 1.5% surcharge on property tax bills to fund community housing, open space, and historic resources, And whereas it is important for taxpayers to understand how the program works and to know where and how their contributions are being spent, now therefore be it resolved that representatives from the Community Preservation Committee be invited to a future meeting of the Committee on Finance to present a brief overview of the approved projects in each category and the amount funded by the taxpayers of the city.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kadim,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Lee. Discussion, the sponsor of the resolution. Councilor in seat 4, Council Vice President.
Thank you, Council President. So I have been speaking with members of the CPA committee, and I am also aware that I believe that there is a petition out to possibly get this back on the ballot. I don't know how far that's gotten, if it's gotten anywhere, so that the residents may take a vote on it. But if that is the case, then I think that they should have all the facts in front of them. So I would ask you to put this on our agenda, maybe first weekend in October, closer to voting time. And that would give the CPA committee some time to put all of their information together as well.
Madam Clerk, the Council Vice President requested that this item get on the agenda closer to the one of our
Okay.
October meetings.
Okay.
If you can please note that for the future.
And if you would just let the CPA committee know which meeting that will be.
And I'm sure you won't let me forget, just in case we
I will not
forget.
let you forget.
Thank you. Motion to adopt, no further discussion. Hearing none. Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We have the citation for the family of Paul R.L. Roy.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt the citation has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Pereira. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
The citation for Richard Aguiar.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We also have a citation for Officer Frank Andrade.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt the citation made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We have the order granting permission to Lais Sajeda Begum at 248 Hancock Street for the removal of curbing.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to refer to Public Works and Transportation has been made by Councilor Pelletier, seconded by
Second.
Councilor Dion. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 36 is the order granting permission to Louis and Sonia Souzer at 227 Walter Street for the removal of curbing.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Pereira,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Kadim. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 37 is the order granting permission to Mass Electric Company and Verizon New England for one jointly owned pole location at Globe Mills Avenue.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Council Vice President. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 38 is an order granting permission to Mass Electric Company and Verizon New England for one joint pole relocation on Downing Street.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 39 is an order scheduling a public hearing for an auto repair shop license for the September 14th meeting.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by Councilor Kadim. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Have the police chief's report.
Motion to adopt the police chief's report has been made by Councilor Lee, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, Councilor in seat 7, Councilor Pelletier.
Thank you.
My
This
pleasure.
is, there's a situation with the cab companies, and they come in with denials, not to give them, the license, and I don't really hear too much about it, what they done, and so on and so forth. We usually take the recommendation of the chief, and that's about it, so, just a point that I'd like to say, that's it. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Councilor. Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. Hearing no further discussions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 41 is the approval of applications for the renewal of auto repair shop licenses.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt the repair licenses has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Pereira. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 42 is an application for the renewal of an auto body shop license.
Motion to
Motion
adopt.
to adopt the auto repair renewal has been made by Councilor Kadim,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 43 is an order granting permission for the transfer of an auto repair shop license located at 260 Linden Street.
Motion to approve has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 44 is an order granting permission for the transfer of an auto repair shop license located at 65 Tower Street.
Motion to adopt.
Adopt has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item number 45 are claims.
Corporation Council.
Motion to refer to Corporation Council has been made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by Councilor Dion. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it.
46 to 50 together?
Motion to
Second.
take items 46 through 50 together has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Kadim. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve all city council minutes from the July
Second.
13th public hearings, Committee on Finance, June 22nd, Committee on Finance, June 29th, regular meeting of the city council, June 22nd, regular meeting of the city council, July 13th. To approve all has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded
Second.
by Councilor Dion. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 51 is the invoice from KP Law for professional services to the council from March 31st through June 30th.
Adopt and place on file?
Motion to approve has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by?
Second.
Is there a
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kadim. Do we have discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 52 is the request for a street opening for pavement less than 5 years at 522 Buffington Street.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Motion to approve has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Is there a discussion?
This
One second, please. I just need a moment to look at this. This is Buffington to Plymouth Avenue.
Yes. Between Plymouth Avenue and Rodman Street.
Fair enough. Motion to approve has been made and seconded. Hearing no further discussions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes
Aye.
have it. Council in seat one opposed. Hearing no other opposition. Next order of business.
Item number 53 is the Assistant Corporation Counsel's response to a recent open meeting law complaint filed by
Motion.
Joe.
Motion to accept and place on file.
Motion to accept and place on file made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by Councilor Kadim. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
I have an application for a structure over a public way. This is actually for a sign for a new business on 415 Second Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to approve has been made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by
Second.
Councilor Kadim. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We have drain layer licenses.
A motion to adopt drain layers license.
Motion to adopt the drain layer license has been made by Councilor Pereira, seconded by
Second.
Councilor Dion. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item number 57 is a notice from the Department of Public Utilities regarding a hearing that has been held.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to approve has been made by Councilor Kilby. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Pereira. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Committee on Real Estate, at a meeting held on August 16th, voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying order be adopted. This is the order requesting an easement to Reverse Mortgage Funding LLC at 81 Greenleaf Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kadim,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion? Roll call.
On adoption of the easement, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Dion,
Yes.
I'm abstaining from this vote.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lullaby LeBeau,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peckham, Pelletier,
Yes.
Pereira,
Yes.
President Ponti.
Abstain. Do we need a recess, Madam
Yes,
Clerk?
2 minutes.
Do we need a recess?
Yes, we do.
Mr. President, before we take a recess, can I just, I know I alluded to this earlier in the meeting, but I just want to recognize the clerks and the secretary. I mean, there's a lot of effort and energy that goes into putting our packets together, and legitimately, I think sometimes we, overlook that because we're not doing it, but It is a very cumbersome job, and, I mean, this is a ream of paper, so, I mean, the amount of energy and effort that goes into making sure that we have our documentation, I just want to take the opportunity to acknowledge the clerks. I know they understand that we appreciate them, but this is some
nice.
heavy lifting.
It's always
I'll
nice.
second that.
It's always nice to say that. We all do. Thank you, ladies, for all your work. We're going to do a 2-minute recess. 2-minute recess. Council meeting will now be called to order. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Made by Councilor
Second.
Pereira, seconded by Councilor Kilby. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.